Sweet.
All right. We are live. This is episode 332 of the Xbox 2 podcast, coming at you on this beautiful September 20th, 2024. I'm one of your hosts, Rand Jez. 19.
Did you forget your name then for a second?
No. How could I forget? How could I forget me, Jez?
I'm one of your hosts.
I'm one of your hosts.
What's my name again?
Rand Jez 19. And with me, we have Jezerino, Jez Cordon, Jez, who was interviewed by Bloomberg. Jez Cordon, Windows Central Managing Editor, is here, as always. Fresh off a vacation, perhaps?
Yeah, little vacation break. Yeah, a little vacation, dude.
But dude, since you went on vacation, nothing Xbox leaked, because that's usually, or come out. That's usually what happens when you go on vacation.
Yeah, that's true. We've broken the curse, maybe, kind of.
Well, to be fair, something did leak while you were gone.
Oh,
the Switch 2.
But wasn't that proven fake? Wasn't it?
I
like
don't know.
3D,
I mean, people are discussing it, it's like whatever.
Bullshit?
But I don't know. But I'm just saying,
Yeah,
something always happens when you're on. Where'd you go, anyways?
I went to the Bavarian Alps, and I
Mhm.
went to Neuschwanstein Castle in the picturesque, Bavarian mountain range. Very lovely. Just a little break, little spa retreat for 2 days. So that was really nice. Because it's coming up to the end of the fiscal year, and I've got to use up all the vacation days I got left.
Okay.
Because I didn't take any until too late. So now I've got to start using them now. But yeah, man, it was an awesome time. Had fun out there. But yeah, there was some. For those that don't know, by the way, this is kind of a meme, because a couple of times over the last year when I've gone on vacation, Xbox has had massive leaks. So one time I went on vacation, the FTC documents leaked where they leaked Xbox Brooklyn and a bunch of their projections, and that was really embarrassing for Microsoft. So there was all that stuff.
Next generation console plans or what have you, and their
whole
step by step to 2028 stuff, and a whole bunch of things. And Jez is out there on vacation being like, I can't write anything about this. My team better be on top of this. Yeah.
But something else leaked another time I went on vacation. I can't remember what that one was, but it was a similar kind of scenario where it was just like, oh god, I can't believe this, and everything's leaked while I'm not there. But it happens. It happens, and we gotta have vacation sometime, right? Guys, do I deserve to have vacation sometimes? Drop in the comments if I deserve to have a vacation or not. But yeah, we're back. We're back in the hot seat, rocking and rolling. I got a load of cool projects coming up. There's been a lot of cool information dropping bits and pieces here and there. Even though there wasn't any major Xbox leaks, we did get some information about TGS.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the whole Palworld drama.
Oh yeah.
There's some information about Concord and what potentially went wrong there. So there's plenty of stuff to talk about, regardless.
Yeah. There's a lot of things going on in the gaming industry. A lot of juicy little things to talk about. So you guys do us a big favor. Make sure you hit the like button, share this out, let everybody know that we are indeed live at a regular time on a Friday. It's nice to be on a regular time Friday. Last week I think we were an hour later than normal. And hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And we do have a lot to talk about. I actually kind of was going through all the things that were sort of newsworthy, I guess. And it was like, holy crap, there was a lot of stuff here, for sure. Something that I'm sure, Jez, we've talked about this for a while. When is Microsoft going to put more ABK stuff in Game Pass, right? That's one of the things that people have been looking at and being like, hey, when's that back catalog coming? Right? And there's been kind of a couple pieces of games would drop in there, like Diablo 4, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Crash Trilogy. But there's so much more. And I know there's people hoping for backwards compatibility to come back in like one last gasp, right? A dying gasp of breath of, even though they said back compat was dead, there's this feeling that maybe because of the ABK acquisition that we get one final push of like 360 games, or even delisted Xbox One games like the Transformers stuff that would come to the platform. And we talked about Singularity and some other things. So people are like, hey, and I still get DMs being like, when's this coming to Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
But I bring this up because I know how much you love the game Overwatch.
I do.
And
like
Overwatch is now in Game Pass.
It is.
And it has, and this is one of the things that you've mentioned before about this idea of Xbox Game Pass needs to have a lot of perks for these titles. And I think I was reading like Overwatch 2's got some pretty extensive perks for Game Pass users, yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty good. So like there's a bunch of skins. A lot of them are old returning skins, but skins that people have missed. Free skins is always nice, especially if it's a skin you like for a character you like.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's moving into the 20th anniversary Warcraft stuff. So like they're gonna have a bunch of Warcraft skins in the game too, and all this kind of stuff. So it's funny because like Overwatch has kind of been in discourse recently because of the drama surrounding Concord. People have been saying like, why would you make a Concord when Overwatch exists? And then other people are saying like Overwatch is dead, blah 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 blah. But Overwatch is very much not dead. It's still pretty damn big. Still a ton of players on Xbox, PlayStation, and isn't it on Switch too? I think, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it's still pretty big. Battle.net as well. So like the Steam numbers aren't truly reflective because you have to remember it was on Battle.net since forever, and people use Battle.net. People actually don't hate Battle.net like they hate some of the launches out there. So, yeah, it's cool to see Overwatch still rocking along. I guess.
Is this the sort of thing that you want to see more of from a lot of these other games? Like something like this, where you have like free to play is obviously one thing because you can't actually put the game in Game Pass, but you could do these sort of perks for people. Like, oh, here's a bunch of skins you can get for free and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually planning to write a longer article about this next week. But I do think if Microsoft is doing this Xbox everywhere kind of thing, it's a little bit like, is it everywhere though, Microsoft? Because for example, when I play Elder Scrolls Castles, which just came out on mobile recently, no Xbox features at all. No Xbox login, no Xbox achievements, all this kind of stuff. It genuinely feels like Xbox was more everywhere back in the Windows Phone days when all the Windows Phone games had Xbox achievements, And like what we're in now, even though Microsoft has all these massive mobile games, none of them have any Xbox features whatsoever. So yeah, this is kind of part of it. I'm going to do a more comprehensive write-up on it, but it's something at least. Something in the right direction. I guess these things just take time, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because that's something that we've talked about, and I know how much you love Overwatch too. So I was like, man, I'm sure Jez got to be really happy about all this stuff coming to Game Pass. Although it doesn't really answer the question about like, hey, where's the rest of the catalog? And why is it taking so long for anything to hit Game Pass? It's kind of like you start and stop and then like, okay, here's Modern Warfare 3, great, and here's Crash Trilogy, and it's like nothing. And then, here's going to be Black Ops 6, but then there's the Tony Hawk games, and there's the Spyro games, and there's the new Crash 4, right? There's so many games that in Activision's, what about Sekiro? Activision owns the publishing rights for that game.
Yeah.
They could put that in there if they wanted to. I'm assuming so. And it's like, okay, what about all the other Call of Duties? What about X, Y, and Z? And, they closed the acquisition 11 months ago, because I think they officially closed it October of last year. Is it really taking that much time still to put these things together? I don't know, but I still get DMs about that from time to time.
Yeah, I think part of it is wanting to make sure that they don't upset the balance of Game Pass, because you have to remember, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the third parties in Game Pass, they do get bonuses for engagement. So it's kind of like, well, if you're dumping Call of Duty in there, that's going to impact the engagement of other games and potentially their partners. So I think they are being really cautious about wanting to gradually curate the platform without throwing everything in the kitchen sink at there all at once, everything everywhere all at once, like that absolutely awesome movie. But yeah, that's my thought on it. It's just gonna be a slow burn maybe. And as Game Pass grows, and it is growing, albeit, it's not the fastest growth in the universe, as I'm sure every pundit on Earth wants to point out. But it is still growing, and I suppose it's just going to take a bit of time. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
But anyways, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the episode today.
Yeah.
Let's quickly get through the good old ad read and Patreon stuff.
Yeah, we do.
And we'll get into it. We got a lot to talk about. So this week's episode is once again sponsored by Manscaped, right, Jez?
Manscaped. So yeah, we have the lovely, wonderful people over at Manscaped for supporting Xbox 2 podcast, and they've been supporting us for a long time. And when you guys check them out, it helps the channel, and also you get some awesome products such as the Lawnmower 5.0. So let's get into some manscapage. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be one and done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over, thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. Introducing the brand new Beard and Balls Bundle. How's that for alliteration? Featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for the boys downstairs. First up, your balls' new best friend, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Say goodbye to endless passes. This trimmer gets it right the first time, cutting through the busiest of bushes effortlessly while being gentle on the skin and on your delicate places. Next, let's talk about the Beard Hedger, which is a personal favorite of mine. Whether you're going for a neat stubble or full-on lumberjack look, this trimmer has you covered. Featuring a titanium-coated stainless steel T-blade and 20 length options, you can achieve any style you want with just a quick twist of the zoom wheel. Get all this and much more at the Beard and Balls Bundle, and snatch 20% off free shipping with the code XB2 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off free shipping with the code XB and the number 2 at manscaped.com. For the premium grooming experience, trust Manscaped. Thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring the video. Manscaped actually came in clutch for me when I was on vacation, Rand, because one thing I noticed as I got older, dude, I get ear hair. Dude.
Okay.
Do you get ear hair, Rand?
I mean,
hairs in your ears?
Sure, why not? Yeah. I mean,
that's new to me. That's new to me as a 37-year-old. I'm starting to notice ear hair. Well, Manscaped as an ear hair trimmer. I can't remember exactly what it's called off the top of my head. I'm just gonna quickly check it up. But it's amazing. You stick it right in there, hair's gone. Boom. Zip. All gone. I'm just like, oh yeah, I feel young again now. I can just remind myself. Oh yeah, it's called the Weed Whacker. The Weed Whacker 2.0. And it's only $35. It's $35 without the discount. So you put the discount on there and then it's like what, $32 or something like that? $31. So yeah, they've got so many awesome products, boxes, formulas, shavers, razors. They've got so much stuff here. Even more, like I haven't checked the website for a while. There's so much stuff here. I wouldn't be surprised if they start moving into other products too. Could we get a Manscaped laptop? Could we get Manscaped Xbox handheld? But yeah, Manscaped's been really awesome to us, and thanks to them for supporting us, and thanks to you guys for checking them out.
Indeed. There are a lot of people. I've been seeing some talk that a lot of people expect Microsoft. Speaking of the Xbox handheld, because it was brought up in Well, I guess we'll talk about this in just a minute. Hold on for that, because we do have to talk about our wonderful Patreons. Once again, supporting what we do. We should have an Xbox 2+1 on Tuesday this upcoming week. We were going to have one this past week, but then Jez decided to go on vacation, take his girlfriend to the Alps and propose. So
I completely forgot.
Let's all say congratulations, Jez and Andy, for...
What? Oh, you're just fake newsing it again. You're just a misinformation machine.
Well, one of these times when you go on vacation, you're gonna get down on that knee, and you're gonna present that ring, and you're gonna say,
"We'll see.
Would you please join me in not telling me what to do Fridays, because I have to do a podcast with Randall Thor for 332 episodes. Could you please be with me the rest of my life, except Fridays, between the hours of 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., please? And sometimes on Tuesdays.
And sometimes on Tuesdays.
Sometimes on Tuesdays.
Sometimes on Saturdays as well, because
or sometimes on
Sundays.
Mondays. Yeah, not ever Sundays, but
no. I do my Warcraft podcast on Sundays.
Oh, the Warcraft, the one that nobody listens to because nobody cares about Warcraft.
Hey, we actually had our best week ever.
Really?
New expansion launch, so I guess that's part of it.
Oh yeah,
Unshackled Fury, the Warcraft.
That's a nice
podcast,
name.
Yeah.
That's a nice name.
Yeah, it's an awesome name. Berserker Rage isn't it?
I mean, it's a better name than the Xbox 2. You know,
Unshackled
sometimes
Fury.
I wish we named it something more like I don't know,
in your face,
more cool. Right?
Xbox Extreme.
Not even necessarily have an Xbox in the title, but just like something
Gamer
cool.
Extreme.
But
like Team Extreme. Do you remember Team Extreme on the, Matt Hardy?
Matt and Jeff, indeed.
Rumors they're coming back to WWE, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting back into wrestling big time, huh?
I need to start a wrestling podcast.
Start a wrestling podcast, Jesus.
Oh God.
But anyways, we do have some shout-outs. There is the question and answer thread, which we will get to at the end of the show. So that is up there for the Patreons that want to drop a question about anything and that they want to talk about. And you get early access to the Xbox 2+1s, exclusive access to Xbox 2 Ultimate, which we, when we do those, which is usually once a month.
We'll
probably do that not next week, but the week after.
Yeah.
Because there is some stuff to talk about. But we got some shout-outs here. We got Tier, Shrapnel, Inner Machine, Xbox Dave, Just James 93, Jay Peltier, Thurgus, Holy Dark Dot, Steve Stompy, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trey, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Moronic Donkey 99, Randall Thor 19, Silas, Eric Gregory, James Moore, Fantasticals, K-Trox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, Preview Broking, Asa T and Madison, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Adam Bartolo, Darren Tropy, Prof. JJJ, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. Now, what I was kind of talking about before I shifted gears to the Patreon stuff was, you mentioned the Xbox handheld, yeah?
Yeah, good old handheld.
Which is something that people have been talking about for a while now. Some people expect it to be announced at Tokyo Game Show. I've seen that online. People are expecting Xbox to announce it there, and it's like, why? Because I think some people are still holding on to the whole thing that Sarah Bond said in February about how they have hardware to announce by the end of the year or whatever. So people are still remember when she said that? Like, hey, we're building consoles and we, it's going to be the biggest technological leap, and we have some hardware that we want to show at the end of the year, whatever, however she said it.
Sparkly console, man.
Sparkly console. But Sarah Bond was profiled by Bloomberg. I didn't particularly get a chance to read the article because it's paywalled, and you only get like a couple free views of articles or whatever. And I guess I used mine up. So there was this whole thing about Sarah Bond and her, where she comes from, and there's even this whole thing about how Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer clashed, and how they had to seek work therapy together or something. I don't know if you saw that part in the article.
I didn't see that part.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it. I think Tom Warren clipped it. A good old Mr. Warren. Let's see here. Yeah. At first, Bond's and Spencer's personal styles clashed. And the two sought out Microsoft Human Resources Chief Kathleen Hogan for coaching, an unusual step that Hogan found admirable. Bond recalls Spencer and others at Microsoft telling her that her tendency to, quote, push the envelope and, quote, not let something go was new to them. She says she found that Spencer's communication style sometimes left her unsure of what he actually wanted from her. Hey! It's a lot of Xbox fans don't know what Phil's talking about lately anyways either, so I guess that's,
man.
you know. At one point,
I knew you'd pick up on that.
At one point, she stuck a post-it note to her computer with some advice about interacting with him. Quote, I'm not being paid to do what he says. It read, quote, I'm being paid to do what he meant. So there's a little bit of that. There's also someone sent me like a snippet of another thing which, you know, could be seen as something bad. It's like, in theory, buying Activision with its popular titles across Xbox, PlayStation, PCs, and phones helps Microsoft on all these fronts. But if Bond is going to pull off this transformation, she's going to have to navigate her division through some pain first. Microsoft has already cut more than 2,600 game jobs this year, with a quarter of the cuts announced in mid-September. These are part of the industry-wide job losses totaling 11,500. Its gaming unit is operating under a challenging set of revenue and profit goals, according to people familiar with Xbox's business, who declined to be named while discussing private financial matters. Well,
Sure is.
I guess
we've all heard that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there you go about why they're putting games on other platforms, because if they have a challenging set of revenue and profit goals, well, I mean, if you need money quick, you gotta, one of the things you're gonna do is put games elsewhere, I suppose.
This is why, like, I've previously theorized about if it does start damaging the bottom line, then I think they'll change tactic, because it is just about money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I think so far, Microsoft's convinced that no one's gonna switch or care. They feel locked into Xbox, and we can debate the merits of that ad nauseum. But so far,
well, yeah,
sorry.
but this is the whole reason I even brought this up, because you're in this article apparently.
Yeah.
Jez quoted in this article, but apparently they misquoted you?
Not exactly. I mean, basically, they asked me to talk about some of the stuff, how Xbox fans have reacted to this kind of stuff. And I said that some Xbox fans felt like it was a slap in the face. And I don't think that's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was hoping they would have got in there about the reason why people feel it's a slap in the face. And that's like, because it's not a tribalistic thing. Although, of course, there is the tribalistic element where it's like, oh, PlayStation shouldn't get our games, blah, 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 blah. But I think there's way more people who are just worried about the game skipping the platform. So, like, it wasn't really a misquote, but it was more like, I wish they'd gotten that part in there as well, but, editing for brevity and stuff like that. I really wanted to get that part in there, but because I do feel like if people start skipping Xbox because they feel like there's no reason to get an Xbox, then devs will start skipping Xbox. That's the real fear I think most people have. Less so about the tribalism. But oh well. But yeah, it was an interesting discussion, and I need to try and read the full piece soon. I'm interested in, because I think a lot of people expect Sarah is probably going to be potentially success to Phil. It's either going to be Sarah or Matt Booty, right? I would think. They're both like the number 2 person right now, and you've got Matt Booty running, the game side, and Sarah running the platform side, and both of them have like huge challenges being set for them. Obviously, we all know about the challenge that Matt Booty has, which is to up level the perception of the game stuff. And like, I know a lot of people have, their opinions about Matt Booty, but he's the guy who made the Minecraft purchase. Yeah, Booty. He's the guy who made the Minecraft purchase profitable. So there is like, he's got like a huge pedigree of turning, acquisitions into money. And I think when we start seeing games like State of Decay 3 and stuff like that, and Fable, it'll start really speaking to what his tenure looks like. But there's also that nagging thing that you think about, which is how much money do they actually have to play with now? The whole budget thing, Tim Stewart, Tim Stewart's running a tight ship because his boss, Amy Hood's been like probably aggressive with their targets, which means he has to be aggressive with how much hiring that can do, because it's hiring really that is the big spend here. And we're going to talk about big spend on game projects when we talk about Concord in a minute, but but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's weird that Sarah Bond has a profile about her that Bloomberg did. I mean, she is the president of Xbox, and what Xbox is doing right now is unparalleled in the industry. Nobody's ever really done what they're doing with regards to putting their games everywhere, and you're about to enter into another new generation and all these sort of things. So, and Phil's been around for a long time, so people know who Phil is and his background. I mean, people may not like Phil anymore because of some of the things he said turned out to not be true. And there's still a lot of people don't know really anything about Sarah Bond. So it's interesting that she's getting like her background and all the stuff that she brings to the table is being brought more to the forefront, because me and you have always been like, hey, Phil's not going to be around forever. And, a couple years ago, people would have been, oh man, that sucks that he's not going to be around. But if you ask the contingent of fans now, if Phil were to retire tomorrow, a lot of fans would be like, thank fucking God he's gone, because he ruined the brand, right? Because of his recent decisions. So I guess it's like that old quote from The Dark Knight: you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. But
we always speculated.
I just want to say, I really hate that sentiment, because the only reason Xbox still fucking exists is because of Phil.
I know. I'm just...
Satya would not have kept it going this long.
Right. No, I agree with you. I'm just pointing out that there is definitely a split opinion about how they feel about him, and he's not going to be around forever. Yeah, sure. So who's the next leader? Who's the next leader of Microsoft's CEO of gaming, right? And it's like, is it going to be Sarah Bond? Will she get promoted from head of Xbox to CEO of gaming? Would it be Matt Booty? Would it be somebody else? So it's cool to see.
Or an outsider, maybe.
I need to read the article because I don't really know much about Sarah Bond, really. I've never spoken to her. I haven't met her. I've met Phil. I've talked to Phil countless times. I've never met Matt Booty or talked to him. So I know about Phil, but I don't know about any of the other executives there and stuff like that. So I did kind of see that today, and I was like, interesting timing. So yeah. But I guess what else do we want to talk about here? There's so much here that we could get into. Jez, what do we want to talk about?
It's up to you, man.
Let's talk about TGS, shall we? Well, actually, you know what? Let's read some super chats. See what we got here.
We should get through those because there's quite a few.
Yeah, we got RDX Son of Fett with the $13.99. Says, I got the play early thing for Starfield on Gamepass and got the DLC for free. I got expansion storage, so no deleting Halo or Starfield. I think I'm going to get lost in this world again on New Game Plus 2. Love Xbox 2, rip RDX. Yeah. It's going to be... Yeah. The Starfield expansion is coming out in 10 days on the 30th. And they did a deep dive. Like a 9-minute deep dive about what to expect from the expansion. I even saw, I think the game director come out on Twitter saying he was going to address some things because of the disinformation floating around about the Starfield DLC. And I was like, disinformation? I was like, Starfield has kind of been a poster child for disinformation and hate towards the game. It was used in so much clickbait nonsense, and kind of still is. But I watched that deep dive of the Starfield thing. Anybody else in chat? What did you think about it? Because I thought it looked really cool. right? Now, granted, I got what I wanted out of Starfield. I really enjoyed my time with it, right? Last year, played it for like 100 some odd hours. Got everything I wanted out of it. The game was better than I expected it to be, right? But I wasn't somebody that cared about exploring or building bases or any of that stuff. I got my sci-fi story, and I was happy with how it went. This expansion seems, the way they talk about it, about how everything's centered on the House Varun planet, and even though you
Which
can
is Varun Kai, it's called
Varun Kai, and how you can leave. I mean, once you start, I guess some of the different information was once you start the DLC, you can't leave, which isn't true because you can leave at any point in time. But I guess what they were talking about was all of the quests and all the things that they have specific to the DLC is only found on that planet. And which, I don't know, it kind of seems to me that it's giving you maybe the old classic Elder Scrolls Fallout feel, because so many missions in Starfield where you're starting off in your ship somewhere, you fast travel to a planet, you then load into the planet, you do something there, and then you fast travel to another part of the universe, rinse and repeat. And there's a lot of loading in between those steps, right? Which really kind of hurt the experience. But since this expansion is set on one planet, it's all handcrafted, I get a sense that a lot of people are going to explore Varun in the way that they probably wanted to explore the main game, where you might be off, hey, go off in this direction for the main campaign, and you're going off in that way, but then something kind of catches your eye.
Yeah.
A little here, so you kind of detour. So like everything's kind of situated there. So maybe it kind of gives the people that old Fallout Elder Scrolls feeling of, because all the missions are on that planet. And I got to say, like, the idea of there being a mystery about what happened to everybody, and like the color schemes they're using, like the reds and the purples and the more horror element, like the fact that I haven't played Starfield in a year makes me excited to return to this to play the expansion. They added 60 frames on the console. And I know you enjoyed Starfield as much as me, although I think maybe your opinion on it slightly wavered the further away we get from the game.
There are a lot of things about it I'm disappointed with from the perspective of someone who likes playing an evil asshole in these games.
Yeah.
You can't be an evil asshole in the game. There's a whole space pirate system in the game which doesn't really let you be a space pirate, really. So I think like there are aspects of the RPG layer which are underbaked and represent them stretching their ambition a little bit too far, maybe. And the same was true of Fallout 4, I felt, in some ways. Like they were like, okay, we're gonna have fully voiced protagonist, but you can see how like having a fully voiced protagonist negatively impacted the decisions you can make. So one of the things they were like, oh well, we're not gonna have a voiced protagonist this time around to bring back that Oblivion RPG style. But I still feel like they're not quite there yet compared to Oblivion and Fallout 3. But anyway, like overall, like if you play the game how it wants to be played, I really, really enjoy it. Problem is like you don't really want to be forced to play one of these kind of games a specific way because that's not what they're known for. So yeah, I'm completely free and I'm not blinkered to admit the game has shortcomings. I wrote as much in my review.
Of course, the game's got shortcomings.
It's not perfect by any means, yeah, and there's a lot of things that could be much better for it. But I'm excited about the fact that they are doubling down on developing the game over time. And it doesn't sound like they're going to stop at one big story DLC. It sounds like there's going to be multiple DLCs in addition to the free updates, the whole vehicle stuff. They added the whole vehicle for free, which I thought was cool.
Well, yeah, and how that's going to... I sort of wonder how that's going to change how this DLC is played, because I would imagine when they built the DLC that the Rev 8 wasn't necessarily in their minds or their plans, but now the Rev 8's there. Does that change what they initially wanted to do with the expansion? I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's because I haven't played it in a year. I never went back to it. And there's a lot of DLC expansions coming out that I'm excited to play. Starfield for one on the 30th. And Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown just put out their expansion DLC, which I need
You're
to go
forgetting
and
about
play.
another DLC.
Which one did I forget about? What, Diablo
Diablo.
4? Yeah, I know. Diablo 4's DLC comes out in a couple weeks as well. I think October 8th. That's more you. That's not me. Although it is single player, but I mean, I don't know. I played the campaign for Diablo 4, and it was okay. It was nothing to write home about.
Are you fucking serious right now?
Bro, click, click,
That
click,
game
click,
had
click,
the best.
click, 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 click. That
Game had the best cinematic of all
no,
time.
sure, but guess what? I can watch that cinematic on YouTube.
You're a Philistine, bro.
I'm a Philistine.
You're a Philistine.
Look,
but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay if people have the incorrect opinion sometimes. But and that's honestly my big issue with it is that okay, Starfield DLC, it's going to be a big commitment. You know, it's probably going to add like what, at least 10 hours of extra gameplay, and like part of me wants to start a new save file for it as well.
Yeah.
And then I kind of start thinking like, well, I've also got the Diablo DLC coming.
You know what
I've also got
really curious about the story elements of Starfield in this one?
Mm-hmm.
Is the whole Great Serpent thing. Right? Because isn't the whole lore behind House Rune is that one guy during like one of those jumps saw or met a Great Serpent and then started that kind of whole religion and everybody broke off. I'm very curious if you'll actually find out if there actually is a Great Serpent.
Yeah, I'm nervous that it's not going to be a serpent at all. It's going to be some kind of metaphor.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see. Because I really want a giant space serpent. I think that'd be rad. One of the coolest things about, even though like Disney has really dropped the ball on Star Wars, one of my favorite moments in Star Wars was the space squid thing. I thought that was badass, and it really reminded me of
Space Squid.
Yeah, in the Solo movie, which I personally think is underrated. The Han Solo movie. There's a space squid in it.
There's a Han Solo movie?
Yeah, Solo. Are you serious right now?
Oh, like the one where he was like a little teenager. That one.
He's like in his 20s.
The one that like nobody watched.
Yeah, nobody watched it, but I think it's really underrated. I really like that movie, but it has a space kraken in it, and I really like.
What the hell is he talking about?
Han Solo, man. God damn it. But yeah, I don't know. I think I want giant space monsters. Have you played? You haven't played Stellaris, but there's like these giant space whales in that game. They're so cool.
So
damn cool, bro. Yeah, they're like space dragons kind of thing, and they're built to feed asteroids. It's crazy, man. I love that. I love that shit. But yeah, I think that's the thing about Starfield. It's like I love just space, fantasy, anything really.
Yeah, I'm kind of digging like the horror aspect, the more horror-y aspect that this one's got going for it, and the colors, like the red and the purples, and like, oh, there's something going on here, but something went terribly wrong, and people are popping in and out of existence and stuff. Like, I don't know. There's like a mystery there that I think is going to be really cool to like solve. And I mean, and I'm looking at the games coming out at the end of the year. I'm like, all right, I should have time to play Starfield because I gotta finish Space Marine 2, which apparently is selling incredibly well. I don't know if you saw this, but I guess in Europe it's like the second biggest game of the year. Like the second biggest game of the year, only behind Helldivers 2, I guess.
Dude,
which
Warhammer's so big in Europe.
Yeah, which speaks to like, geez, I mean, it kind of makes you wonder, like, well, why did you wait so long between the first Space Marine and the second Space Marine if Space Marine was as popular?
Part of me wonders if it's licensing, because I think Games Workshop has been a bit iffy sometimes when it comes to licensing their IP.
Yeah,
and
I suppose.
From what I've heard, they take quite a big chunk of the money. So, you know, as you would expect from any licensed deal, probably. But Games Workshop is, I think, it's Britain's third biggest company now, behind two oil companies, if I remember right. It's a huge company, Games Workshop. It's like one of Britain's biggest exports. Those little plastic figurines, man. But yeah, it's awesome seeing that franchise blow up like it is, and I need to finish Space Marine 2. I played it how it's meant to be played recently in co-op with some
Oh,
friends.
how was that? Was it fun?
Oh, it was so much better than the fucking AI, man. So much better.
I mean,
I can't
how could it
tell you how
not be
much better it
better?
feels.
How could it not
Yeah,
be
like,
better?
but I don't know. I can play Gears solo and have a good time. But this was just like there's a lot of missions where it's like, okay, you've got to defend four things. You know, there was another mission with chains you have to defend while you're on a lift because the Tyranids are eating the chains, right? And the AI they just stand there like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna fucking stand here and let these Tyranids eat the thing that's literally keeping us alive. So when you play
Yeah,
with
you
friends,
were
you can
complaining to me about that about the end
that
of like
that
level
mission with the
2.
antennas.
Yeah, where you're
Yeah,
like the things
the
in the
antenna
antenna
is
and the
bullshit,
AI's
man.
not doing shit. The
It's
hell?
bullshit, man.
And I'm like, throw the
I,
grenades at the things on the antennas. He's like, "Dude, fucking
don't worry,
won't
bro.
do shit, Rand.
The grenades are
Fucking
terrible,
AI."
actually.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I don't like about the game is the grenades are terrible. They feel so weak. When I throw a grenade into a group of little mobs, I expect violent, and they're less like grenades, more like firecrackers. So there are a few things about the game which I'm not particularly excited about, but I want to dive into the multiplayer on that game because the multiplayer's got quite a lot of beef to it. There's the PvP stuff which I'm not that interested in, but the PvE stuff that looks really really good. I really want to give that a go.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm like, see, understanding in chat just said you have to mark the target in the arrow shoot. I swear to God, I tried that. I marked those fucking targets and they did nothing.
I don't
They
even
did
know. Did the
nothing.
game even tell you how to mark targets? If they did, I
I
completely
don't
missed
know.
it.
You press up on the D-pad to mark targets.
Okay.
But I tried that and it did nothing. Did nothing
Mm.
at all. Um, but I don't know. Maybe it was a bug and they fixed it now. I don't know. But yeah, Space Marine 2 is probably my favorite game of
I
the
know. And
year. I think.
who would have thought that Space Marine 2 would be, at least right now, from what we know, selling better than Star Wars Outlaws? I see Ubisoft's stock price keeps on sliding.
Oh, it sure does.
And we haven't really heard anything about Star Wars Outlaws. I know that they're patching some of those stealth missions. So maybe it's one of those things like most Ubisoft games where all the glitches and all the things that are wrong at launch are fixed a couple months down the road, and then the game's better for it.
Yeah, maybe. I think so many AAA games are going that way now, where it's like, well, just wait for patches. And Ubisoft's trained people longer than other devs, I feel like, to wait for patches. I mean, going back as far as AC Unity, man, where it's like, okay, well, like a lot of people say AC Unity is like a really great game. Now they fixed it, but man, it was rough at launch. It was super rough.
Sure was.
I still see AC Unity memes sometimes. The missing faces and the disembodied eyeballs and shit like that. My God, very creepy bugs in that game. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much to play now. I feel like you can't release a game that ain't polished because if you don't have momentum coming out the gate, you're pretty much boned because there's so many other games I could be playing right now. I got Frostpunk. I haven't even started yet.
I mean, a lot of games came out recently with pretty good reviews. Dead Rising Remaster, which is kind of in that vein of a remaster, and a remake came out to pretty good reviews. And I know there are probably a lot of people that didn't really get to play Dead Rising originally when it came out on the 360 back in, what was that, 2006? So that's out now, and people can enjoy that. The Plucky Squire came out, which is an indie game it's like a storybook game that is like 2D, but then has the thing where you pop out into a 3D world and you solve things. But it seems opinions on that are mixed. Some people enjoy what the game is, but then others are like, it's a bit boring because the game's constantly taking control away from you. So I guess your mileage may vary on the Plucky Squire. Frostpunk 2 came out, and that got really good reviews as well. Astrobot had really good reviews. Space Marine 2's got really good reviews. September
was in early access now as well. I want to try that.
Powerborn's out. It's a lot of games.
Arrow History Untold's coming out soon, I think, off the top of my head.
Age of Mythology came out with pretty good reviews.
Age of Mythology, I ain't even started that either. I loved Age of Mythology as a kid. As well, I suppose I was in my early 20s when that came out, maybe. But dude, actually, yeah, there's just so much stuff. And if you're releasing a game like Outlaws, which is $70, well, if we don't count the premium editions, and the game's just like they're admitting in interviews that they're going to change game mechanics like the instant fail stealth. Well, I'm just like, well, I ain't going to play it then. I'll just wait till they fixed it. What else are they going to change, But I kind of feel that way about Starfield a little bit too. Because it's like, okay, now they've added the vehicle. I wish that had been there at launch. And I'm just kind of like I feel this way about early access games in general, actually, where it's like, I'd rather play it when it feels finished.
Yeah.
Satisfactory just came out of early access after however many millions of years in early access. And I didn't touch that because I was like, I want to play it when it's finished.
Yeah, Hades 2, which I loved Hades 1, but I waited for that game to come to Xbox. And Hades 2 is in early access, and everybody says it's just as good, if not better, than the first one. But it's like, all right, yeah, I'll wait for it to come out of early access. Another game I was really interested in from the makers of Ori was
No Rest for the
No Rest for the Wicked. And people played that in early access, but I'm like, I'll wait. You complete the game. I'll wait. I don't know. I really don't do demos or betas for that for the most part. But it's like, oh, you want to do your early access stuff? All the more power to you. I'll wait till the game's finished.
Yeah, I feel the same.
I'm
gonna rock some Satisfactory this weekend maybe. But yeah. I don't know, because I want to finish Space Marine. Too many games again. First world problems.
Yeah, I did get a couple messages, even some here on the YouTube chat, about my recommendation for people to watch From, and I just wanted to say that I'm super happy that anybody listens to me in the first place, because I don't really think my opinion's that important, but I am happy for anybody that discovered From through me.
The TV show.
The TV show, the mystery horror Lost-like TV show with Harold or Michael from Lost.
What platform is it again?
It's on MGM Plus, but it's part of Amazon Prime, so it's on Prime.
It's on Prime. Okay.
Season 3 starts in 2 days. I really recommend the show to anybody that loved Lost, or anybody that just kind of looking for something to watch now. You have 2 seasons to watch, 10 episodes apiece. Third season's coming. You can just watch the first episode, and if it grabs you, then continue on. I don't know. I think it's pretty awesome. Pretty unique show, and I'm just putting it out there because I think I talked about it towards the end of a podcast one week. Now I'm going to talk about it more towards the beginning when more people are listening. Also this week, I didn't really play a lot because I binged the show that I have heard so much about. And I was like, all right, let me binge this. I binged Slow Horses on Apple TV. Apple TV's got some pretty damn good shows. Slow Horses is a spy show set in the UK, Jez. MI5.
Oh, cool.
But it's about the dregs of the spy world. Slow House is basically like an offshoot of MI5 where they send the worst spies.
Oh, weird.
And Gary Oldman heads up the unit, and he's
I think I've heard of this.
Yeah. If you go on like Rotten Tomatoes, it's got like a 98% for all the seasons.
Yeah.
And the seasons come out like once a year or even twice a year. So I watched the first 3 seasons. Really, really good. Anybody that's craving, your typical like spy show, 6 episodes each season. And after the end of each season, they have a trailer for the next season, which you rarely find nowadays. But season 4 just started, and I went through that stuff super fast.
Is it a comedy?
It is. Yeah, there's comedy elements for sure. It's comedy.
Like a dark
I would say it's more of a drama because it's more of like a spy thriller, but there are definitely comedic elements to it for sure. Gary Oldman's character is great.
But did you say it was on Apple?
It's on Apple TV, yeah.
Shit.
Apple TV's got some good stuff, even though apparently nobody watches. I did see a report that Apple TV, that Netflix gets as much, like people watch, like Netflix gets as much views in one day as like Apple TV gets in a month or something.
I like that stat.
Which is kind of ridiculous. Now, we also did have some more kind of gaming announcements from Netflix. I'm gonna see, because you said you're kind of been out of the loop because you've been on vacation for a bit. So I'm gonna see if you've heard about any of this. So we got a Splinter Cell show coming from Netflix, animated. Did you hear about this? I'm surprised you
No.
you probably didn't, because you would have trolled me.
Yeah,
you would have trolled me. You know who did troll me? Miles Dompier sent me a message like, "You get what you deserve, Rand."
That's so funny. Ubisoft is cooked, man.
Yeah.
How are they gonna do a Splinter Cell TV show?
A Splinter Cell TV show. I mean, I hopefully we're still getting that Splinter Cell game, the remake. I think we still are. So maybe it's kind of going to be one of those things where the Splinter Cell TV show, animated TV show, kind of coincides with the Splinter Cell game. But
the Splinter Cell remake's gonna have a dev cycle like Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah, we also got, to a lot of people's surprise, a new Cyberpunk show was revealed.
Yeah, I did see that actually.
Yeah, but
I
don't think it's going to be Edge Runners Season 2, or maybe it will be, but just with new characters, because obviously, what happened at the end of the first one. But yeah, new Cyberpunk show, which is super cool.
I kind of feel like if it was going to be Edge Runners 2, they would have announced that Studio Trigger was the dev.
Apparently, Studio Trigger is working on a Transformers anime.
Oh god, that is going to be so good. Like, I am like a long-suffering G1 Transformers fan. I pretty much hate every Transformers show after Beast Wars. Beast Wars was great, but then everything after it has been trash that I've seen. So
and
this is one studio that can bring Transformers back for me as a nostalgic 30-something-year-old. It's probably Studio Trigger.
They gave their release dates for Arcane Season 2, which I can't wait for, because Arcane Season 1 was phenomenal. But they also showed off the trailer for their Devil May Cry anime, Jez.
No.
Which looks pretty good.
I do wonder if we'll ever get another Devil May Cry, because I don't know if you saw this, but the lead dev that's been making Devil May Cry, all of them except 2, I think, recently left Capcom.
Yes, recently left Capcom, yeah.
Just sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure we'll get another Devil May Cry somewhere. I mean, hell, even the guy who does Kingdom Hearts and a lot of the Final Fantasies talking about retiring.
Who's that?
I forget his name. Well, he's talking about like wrapping up Kingdom Hearts with Kingdom Hearts 4.
Oh, what's his name now? Oh, I can't remember his name. It's Tetsuo, isn't it? Something. That's really bugging me. So someone in chat help me out. Nomura. That's it. Nomura. Yeah. Nomura-san. So yeah, Nomura. Tetsuya Nomura. Not Tetsuo. That's Akira. Tetsuo. Canada. Do you ever watch Akira? No. Right.
Akira, no, never.
Oh, you should watch Akira, man. The movie. Oh, it's so good. If you liked Edge Runners.
Oh, I loved Edge Runners.
You've got to watch Akira.
Yeah.
Watch fucking Akira. Put everything down that you're doing, or that you're watching, and watch Akira next. That movie is so influential. So influential, man.
We have a super chat here from Daswell Gordon, $10. Good tidings, ye Xbox Final Fantasy faithful. Yo. It seems our patience will be rewarded this coming week, but on the off chance we get nothing, then it'll never happen. So, I guess we'll talk about the Xbox Tokyo Game Show hype. And
hype mode.
The reason I said I put hype in the title, and I'm sure this will probably get clipped out of context like a lot of our conversations, because people can't, whatever. Anyways, I'm not hyping up the Tokyo Game Show. You know who's hyping up the Tokyo Game Show? Good old Tom Warren. Our buddy Tom Warren.
He was in the chat earlier.
Was he in chat? That was great. It's great to see Tom. But Tom Warren said this because Phil Spencer had a video talking about, hey, tune in. Tom Warren says, going to be worth it to tune into the Xbox Game Show stream next week. Now, For those in the UK and for those in the US, it's going to be super early in the morning.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's one of those things where you want to stay up for, but with Tom saying that, is there a lot of hype surrounding Tokyo Game Show? Because I a lot of you're on record saying the whole slate is coming. Final Fantasy.
Yep. Not a Tokyo Game Show though.
Not a Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah, I'll just say that now. Like, if you're expecting Final Fantasy VII, for example, to be announced at Tokyo Game Show, don't expect that this time round. But I think what you'll see is some Final Fantasy, maybe.
Ooh, like Final Fantasy 16?
I don't know exactly what, but you'll see some Final Fantasy, which will hint at a broader partnership. So,
what about
really
those,
lucky, maybe you'll be on Game Pass too.
What about those Final Fantasy Pixel remasters?
Dude, I would scream if that was confirmed. I don't know for certain exactly, but Pixel remasters would be a pretty good, pick. Pixel remasters is a dream game for me on Xbox Play Anywhere, because that's something that I will play on my Xbox and my TV. But also, it's a perfect game for a handheld. Not going to drain your battery when it's 2D like that, and also like the cross save stuff. That's a perfect game for that whole scenario. But we'll see what happens. But I wouldn't expect 7 this time around. But I still think the full slate's coming.
Well, 16 just released for PC.
I've got it installed. I haven't tried it though yet.
I think some PC players are complaining about performance issues maybe in the game.
Yeah, so funny thing about 16 on PC, there was no review period for it. None whatsoever. So it's always a bit of a red flag when there's no PC review period, because it's like, what are they hiding exactly? So yeah, apparently it seems they might have been hiding some performance issues with certain subs. But at the same time, I've seen people being sharing clips of it on the Lenovo Legion Go and the Asus ROG Ally. It seems to be running well there in some cases. But it's one of these, like, they will, I suppose, continue iterating on it, because one of the issues Square Enix has right now is they don't have a good pipeline for simultaneous platform development. And the lack of investment therein is contributing to a sort of an exodus of hype around Final Fantasy brand. Like, they came out this week and said 7 Rebirth missed expectations and 16 missed expectations.
It's weird. A lot of that upset a lot of fans. A lot of PlayStation fans were pretty upset that apparently that info came out. I don't know why.
Well, it's funny because one of the narratives that fanboys use against Xbox is that Xbox fans don't buy JRPGs. Well, apparently neither do Sony fans, because that game was exclusive to PlayStation, and if it missed sales targets, despite being this, and it had a big marketing campaign with Sony. I saw Final Fantasy VII Rebirth all over London. I haven't seen Xbox market a game like that in the UK for years. So I had a big marketing campaign, so I would argue that you can't say people didn't know about it. But there was also a game industry article recently where I think they talked to some analysts and tried to sort of post-mortem the Final Fantasy brand, and it was kind of like younger generations don't give a shit about Final Fantasy.
That is true.
They don't want the photorealistic anime style. They want the full bore, cel shaded anime style like Genshin Impact, or and variety of reasons, I guess. And it's only, I think they said something like it's only like 30-year-old nostalgic 90s kids who want to play Final Fantasy. And I hate that because I felt call out, but it's also sadly maybe possibly
I think that's true. I think that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the other things you got to run into is how were the previous games received? Like Final Fantasy 15 wasn't really received that well. And I think that probably impacted how many people decided to buy Final Fantasy 16, because we've seen that with other franchises,
16.
right? Like we saw with Assassin's Creed Unity, for example, almost destroyed the Assassin's Creed franchise because Unity was so bad that nobody decided to play Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which then forced them to change up the entirety of the Assassin's Creed formula and kind of go to stop doing the yearly releases, right? So Final Fantasy 15 was a big change up for Final Fantasy, and a lot of people didn't like it. and then okay, here's 16,
I
but
hate
now
it.
it's exclusive to PlayStation, and people aren't sure about the quality. That could have an impact, for sure. So, and then you have like Rebirth, which is a sequel to Remake, but then some fans didn't like what happened in Remake, or didn't like the battle
ending.
system or the story choices. So they're like,
The
I'm done
ending
with
was
it.
bad.
So it's like, well, they're not going to play Rebirth, but you know the game still costs a shit ton of money to make, and now less people are turned. I guess they were thinking, well, you know, there's going to be 3-4 years. We'll have more people buy into the consoles, and you know, we'll get the game out there more. We'll put it on PC and all this sort of stuff. But then it just came out and it didn't perform up to their expectations. I think part of it is because a lot of it, I think maybe, is because JRPG fans are on the Switch, especially in Japan. And I think not releasing your game day one on PC is extremely hurtful. So I'm not surprised that, you know, Final Fantasy or Square Enix in general is now like, all right, we're going to be multi-platform, because even Foam Stars didn't do anything for them. I mean, we saw that coming from a mile away, but, and I'm not even saying like Xbox would solve their issues, but I guarantee you Final Fantasy would probably be in a better state if they had released it on Xbox and PC the same time as a PlayStation version. It probably would have.
It generates more, even if it was just PC. Like this ain't a console thing for anyone, you know, desperately looking for something to clip for their shitty little YouTube channel no one watches. But if it was also, at least if it was on PC, I think it would drive that kind of excitement of having like the, you know, multiple platform stuff. Because like when you're seeing all these big billboard ads for like Final Fantasy Rebirth, and it's like, oh yeah, Final Fantasy, I played that as a kid, and it's like, well, I moved on from console gaming a million years ago. I can't play it on my platform, and I ain't buying a PlayStation for it. PlayStation, evidently, Rebirth was not a system seller for PlayStation, and it hasn't, you know, delivered the kind of margins that Square Enix would have hoped for. And I think you were right that the way they've been messing around with the Final Fantasy formula and just the lack of consistency. And honestly, it's been happening since like it's been happening since 12, really, where they started really experimenting with the formula, and now nobody knows what to expect game over game. Whereas, like, there are other games out there which have built up this really passionate fan base using consistency. Call of Duty is an obvious one. They don't wildly change the formula for like decades. And then Monster Hunter, they haven't wildly changed the formula for decades. But Monster Hunter Wilds is like probably the biggest formula change in the franchise's recent history. And even that, it's like you still can play it. Like you can, like, I could sit down and just play Monster Hunter Wilds and use all the same combos and tricks, and like there are maybe little tweaks here and there. But Final Fantasy, game over game, has these wild, massive changes. And I think when you do have a franchise that banks on nostalgia, like Final Fantasy banks on nostalgia, you throw all that away, you throw all that consistency away for these like self-indulgent, honestly, these self-indulgent experiments. It's fucking stupid. It's not good game directing in my opinion. So like it's been an issue since Final Fantasy 12. And while I didn't hate Final Fantasy 12, I could even then as a kid be like, this isn't my Final Fantasy, you know.
Well,
So like I
remember
think
how many people were turned off because of Final Fantasy 13, and then its sequels,
well
13-2 and
yeah, true.
Lightning Returns and stuff.
I think with Final Fantasy 13 was when they first started thinking like the turn-based system is not working. Is the reason people are turning off is because of turn-based. But I bet you're right. Watch what Claire Obscure does. 'Cause, like Claire Obscure, which is like, you know, it's getting marketing from both Sony and Xbox right now. It feels like a AAA take on what turn-based could do. It feels like a true advancement of that whole paradigm. And also, you've got games like Baldur's Gate, fully turn-based, and it's huge. You know, so the turn-based stuff isn't the issue. It's the lack of knowing what made Final Fantasy appealing in the first place. But you know, maybe there's just nothing they can do now, and it's become so inconsistent and weird, and I don't know, self-indulgent. It's just what it is, man. But I still want to get them on Xbox, and I would still buy them. I'm still, long-suffering Final Fantasy fan. I got Final Fantasy 16 installed on my PC, ready to play that as well. Talking about having too many games to play, and I'm here installing God of War. I got Black Myth Wukong installed. I got Final Fantasy 16 installed. I got Frostpunk installed. I got all the games installed, and I'm just playing World of Warcraft all day.
Yeah. Good problems to have, though. Good problems to have, I guess.
It's a good problem
except for the World of Warcraft thing. Who needs that, right?
Yeah. Do you remember when? I want to know in chat. You can tell me, people of my age, if you felt this way as well. When I was younger, maybe in my late teens, early 20s, I went through periods feeling like, oh man, there's nothing to play. Did you ever have periods like that? Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be stretches of time. Maybe because I didn't want to play anything. Because I definitely go through that. There have been times where, maybe for a month or two, where I wasn't in a gaming mood. So I didn't play anything. And then eventually, something I really wanted to play comes out, and that kind of reignited everything. I mean, I get like that with any sort of thing. Like, you know how much I love books, but there'll be a time where maybe I didn't read anything for 4 months.
I was trying to figure out if, I felt like there was nothing to play because I couldn't afford to buy any new games, or if I felt like there was nothing to play because I wasn't aware of the new games. I don't know, but I did have those problems where it was like I was just waiting months for the game I wanted to play to come out. I don't know, but I definitely never have that problem now. Much good stuff to play.
There's a lot of stuff from AAA to indies and beyond.
Yeah, no matter what platform you're on.
As long as you're willing to try something new. I mean, if you always want to stick into what you're sure you're going to like, but then maybe you've played all the stuff and you're not willing to expand your horizons, maybe you might be like, oh, I don't have anything.
Yeah.
But you never know what you're going to like. We do have a super chat here from Timothy Struble, 10. Up until around the time of release of the PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, I remember everything was about graphics. Now, if a game doesn't hit 60 FPS, it turns off half the gaming audience. What gives? My friend, that is an interesting question. And I think the answer to that is ignorance is bliss. Because for most people playing on, consoles, PS4, Xbox One, 360, PS3, PS2, whatever, is that they were accustomed to 30 frames. And they hardly ever got a 60 frames game. Except for maybe like Modern Warfare or the Call of Duty games were 60, right? So when more games, or at least those systems, came out and started offering a performance mode, people realized how much better it was to play a game at 60 frames than it was at 30 frames. And maybe the trade-off of the deterioration of the resolution was an acceptable one. Like, wow, this game controls so smoothly, it's much better to play this way, and the trade-off isn't that bad because I can barely see the resolution difference on my TV. I think that's what happened, is ignorance is bliss. People didn't know any better until they were showed how much better higher frame rates are, right? And then, I think a lot of it also has to do with how the PS5 and the Series X and S were marketed. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of marketing around 60 frames per second and the feel of the consoles and how this generation would be different. And, with this gen being a lot of cross-gen, every game had a performance mode for the most part, or at least every game was 60 frames. And people were enjoying just how smooth it is to play a game at a high frame rate. So when a game comes out and is like, actually, we're now 30 frames again, people will be like, but wait a minute, I actually really like playing games at 60. This is bullshit. You told me that this was going to be 60, the marketing, what have you. I don't want to go backwards. And then some people, they'll be like, fuck this, I'm going to PC. I'll build my rig. I'll play my game how I want to play my game. Like, we remember when Starfield, I don't know if it was Todd Howard or somebody else, were like, the game was designed to be played at 30 FPS or whatever. It was like a game design decision. But it's like, oh, really? Then why is it 60 frames on PC then? And then eventually they put in the 60 frames on console. Well, it couldn't have been that big of a game design if you patched it in, right? It's like obviously like that was just whatever, a marketing to basically gloss over the fact that it wasn't going to have 60 FPS at launch, right? Yeah. That's what it comes down to. That's what it always comes down to. It's ignorance is bliss. I've told the story I don't know how many times. I'll tell it again. I had like regular boob tube, right? 27-inch.
Excuse me?
It was like a boob tube.
You
like,
had a what now?
A boob tube. It was one of those huge TVs that you don't see anymore.
Boob tube.
Chat will know what I'm talking about.
Are you? I kind of feel like it's not called that.
It's a CRTV TV, boob tube.
Right? Is that what they call them?
That's what I call them. But they're big and bulky, and the backs were huge, and they're super heavy, right? You know how TVs used to be. And this one had a VCR and a DVD combo, right? Which I always thought was super cool. I got it for my birthday one year. I'm like, oh, DVD and VCR combo, that's so cool. It's 27-inch, but the thing was massive. It was huge, and I think it only could display stuff in 480i, or I forget what resolution, but whatever. And I remember I got the 360 one year, and I was still using that TV. And I think HD had come around, but I didn't really see any examples of it. And you hear people talk about how great high definition looked, even at 720p compared to 480i. And you're like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. What I have is great. What I'm watching, what I'm playing on this TV is magnifique, right? And then my buddy brought over his PC monitor that was 720p, and remember this is in 2007, right? Because he was coming over to play the Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare beta, and he brought his monitor over, and we hooked up my Xbox to it, and I remember for the first time seeing the dashboard displayed in high definition, and my mind was blown.
I remember that too.
And then seeing the game played in 720p HD, and then being like how much better everything looked. And then when he left, and then I went back to my 480i television, and I saw how dull the dashboard was and how dull the game was. I was like, I can't take this anymore. I went to Walmart the next day and bought a 720p TV. Because ignorance is bliss. My eyes were open, and I couldn't take it anymore. If something similar happened when I upgraded from my 1080p TV to my like 4K OLED, I remember
Rand.
What?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, maybe you'll feel that way about the PS5 Pro. Super resolution, baby.
Super resolution. But yeah, I know this is a long way of answering the question, but it's essentially ignorance is bliss. People didn't know what they were missing until they actually had it shoved in their face.
I'm going to upset you now.
Okay.
I'm playing Space Marine 2 at glorious 30 frames, baby.
Of course you are.
30 frames, let's go! With the nice sharp pixels, dude.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's fine at 30, man. Melee game. It's fine. Oh, man.
We got Meat Puppet with Meat Puppet with the 5, Jez. Rand Jez, you really expect them to put the full catalog in Game Pass when they couldn't even put the full 360 catalog in back compat? I think. Well, no, I'm not saying their full catalog as in like 360 games.
ABKs,
but I'm talking about ABK's games that they can put in there, like all the ones that necessarily aren't delisted. You know, I'm not expecting like their whole entire catalog of. Here's all of our 360 stuff and all of our, like, that's obviously going to be, here and there. Like, maybe they do it for a couple games or whatever. But there's no reason why the recent Tony Hawk isn't in Game Pass or Crash 4 or all the Call of Duties that are on backwards. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. I don't mean, like, everything they've ever done but...
Licensing stuff can be really weird too. Like sometimes they might have license to use music on a PC version, but not a console version. And then like it's like figuring out who the license holder is to even make that a reality again. Which is why, like, Singularity, for example, I heard Singularity was coming to the Microsoft Store, and my assumption was, oh god, they're reviving the backwards compatibility program. Um, but it was just the PC version, and then I'm starting to think like maybe they've only got a build available for the PC version, or maybe there'd be port work to do to make that happen. And you know, for next gen, like there can be like a multitude of weird reasons, um, you know, precluding a game from launching in backwards compatibility. But I don't think when they came out and said we've exhausted all our options for backwards compatible games, I don't think that was necessarily, you know, an excuse by any stretch. I think that's probably just a case of like it's become we maybe there is a universe where they could get more, but it might be more trouble than it's worth at this point. Just because of the weird licensing universe that all this stuff exists in. I'm going to be talking about more legal ownership of games in a minute when we get into the Palworld discourse later. But yeah, it's a weird situation. It's never 100% cut and dry. Every contract is different. Every marketing deal is different. A licensing for different musics and assets, pixels, logos, anything that can't remove from a build potentially could be a licensing conflict. And Microsoft's very, very anal when it comes to making sure all the legal stuff is completely 100% covered. So they don't like being sued, Microsoft. So
yeah, we have Face 23 BKNY with the 20. What are your thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth night and day difference on the PS5 Pro, and how much you think Sony will charge for the 30th anniversary PS5 Pro bundle? I mean, yeah, it looks. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the PS5 Pro and what's going to do for games, and we won't really know until, you know, people get their hands on it, like Digital Foundry. You know, even they're saying like some games are still going to be 30 frames or what have you. Not everything's going to be 60. I mean, it does have a big GPU increase, but the CPU, not so much. Final Fantasy, at least in the screenshots, and from what Digital Foundry said, does like, hey, the image quality and performance mode on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was pretty atrocious. So yeah, okay, that's fixed. But you know, you ask yourself, is that worth spending $800 on or what have you? And that's going to be to each individual person's decision making. But yeah, I mean, you'd obviously want better, you know, visual. I haven't played Rebirth yet, and I am going to play it. Maybe not necessarily this year, but maybe next year, depending on the time. Because it's not like
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming to Xbox.
Well, it's not like no. I think Rebirth's going to come to Xbox. It's just not going to come to Xbox anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So, you know, maybe when it comes to Xbox in 4 years, I'll replay it again or something. But the 30th anniversary PS5 Pro bundle is interesting because, you know, a lot of the talk around the Twitter sphere and forums and stuff was that the PS5 Pro was overpriced. $700 for this? No disk drive? Stand? You're going to make me charge, you know, what is it? $810, but then plus tax, almost like $900 for this thing? Where are the games? And nobody knows what games there are, and it's just like, you know, we talked a little bit about the presentation and how we both thought using PS4 games to show off PS5 Pro stuff isn't maybe the best idea, or maybe YouTube comparisons just don't work very well, and you need to just have it in your hands. We talked at length at that, but suddenly Sony shows off their 30th anniversary stuff, which good for them, because I think when you celebrate your 20th, your 25th, your 30th, and you do hardware like this, it's really cool, right? Because it's a callback to PS1 gray. Even the box art is very much like how it was in the PS1. And
looks great. Looks really great.
And I have to say that it does look better. Like the PS5 Pro bundle, like that gray on the PS5 Pro, I think does look better than the white.
Yeah, it works. It works for it for some reason. I don't know.
It works. I mean, it looks a lot better. But man, people suddenly flip to, oh my god, I don't want this too expensive. To my poor wallet, I need to have this, right?
Yeah, I was right there too. I was like, that looks fantastic. But nostalgia is a hell of a drug, man.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's okay. if something nostalgic gives you joy, it's completely okay. It's about how you feel about it, right? And that PS1 style is nostalgia bait, you know. Nintendo are legendary at leveraging nostalgia. Um, and I've been playing WoW for 20 years, and I admit a lot of it is nostalgia. They've done a lot of work to improve the game recently, but like even during WoW's bad periods where the game was not great, nostalgia kept me playing, you know, and it was the same for a lot of other people as well. I think nostalgia is completely valid, but it's so doesn't necessarily mean it's good value for money.
Well, so then,
Especially if you can't afford it, could be irresponsible.
right? Because it has the like, there's a DualSense controller that's gray. Like one of those really expensive like Elite controllers that they have.
They call it the Elite.
No, I forget the name of the controller. Is it Dual Edge or something like that, right?
Right.
They have like the PS4,
Microsoft
PS5 Slim in that color and all these things. But there's a special PS5 Pro bundle, which I believe is going on. The pre-orders the day the regular pre-orders open for the PS5 Pro. There's only going to be 12,300 of these made in the entire world, so you already know they're going to be hard to get. Scalpers are going to have a field day. And the whole bundle is like, you have the PS5 Pro, you get like the gray controller, you have the gray dual edge controller, you get a gray disc cover for the disc drive because it's not included. I forget what else you get, but Face asks like, how much are they going to charge for that? And in my mind, considering how limited it is and how much people are willing to pay, my first thought was they could probably get away charging $1,200 for this, or your regional standard equivalent. Yeah. And because the limited edition factor of it, they'll probably be able to sell that much. If not, I mean, you're looking at $700 for the Pro, but limited, so they could probably be like, well, we could jack up the price on this another $100. You have that controller, which is by itself, I think, $200. But it's limited, so maybe you can add some. So I mean, right there between just the dual edge and the PS5 Pro, you're looking at $900 just right there between those two things. So they could probably get away selling the limited edition stuff for $1,200. And you could probably easily sell 12,000 of those things. I don't know how many people are going to, like, regular people are going to be able to get those, because I'm sure scalpers are going to be on the lookout for
Scalpers are going to be all over that. I mean, dude, I sold like an old, was it Sea of Thieves controller I sold? Yeah, I sold the Sea of Thieves controller. You know, you remember that translucent purple Sea of Thieves controller?
Mm-hmm.
I sold that a little while back, clearing out space. I got way too many controllers. I only ever use the Elite controller. Now I've got the Razer V3 Pro, which is amazing, by the way. And I've started like selling some of my stuff, and I was like looking over how much some of these classic Xbox controllers are worth now, because a lot of them are just out of print. You know, so to speak, out of what do you call it? Not out of print when it's when it's a product, but you know what I mean. It's not being sold anymore. And these things are selling for like hundreds of pounds because people collect them. So like, imagine what this very limited run of the PS1, PS5 Pro is going to sell like. Scalpers are going to be all over it, and I bet you see them on eBay for ridiculous amounts of money.
Oh, of course.
The first World of Warcraft expansion, you've got that sealed, $5,000. 5,000 buckaroos. Yep. Seriously, look on eBay. It's $5,000 if you've got that sealed. Crazy, man. Nostalgia, hell of a drug. Hell of a drug,
now,
baby.
Let me ask you
and sometimes,
this.
Rand, think to myself, should I buy it?
Well, you bought that 6 foot tall Lilith Diablo 4 statue.
That's 6 foot.
Oh,
like
it's not
3 foot. No,
sound like you wake up
foot.
in the middle of the night and see Lilith standing over you because she's 6 foot tall statue.
Right, it's still pretty big. It's like an altar.
Yeah.
Kind of creepy, but
I mean, I get like nostalgia and being like, oh man, that looks really good. But if you weren't really interested in the Pro for $700, I don't know why you'd be interested in this for over because it's not like you can buy the PS5 Pro separately. They're bundling all this together specifically so they can sell it at a high price point. It's a margin play.
Don't cost fallacy, nostalgia, all
so it's
that
like,
kind of
well,
stuff.
I don't want the regular one for $700, but For the special one, I'll spend 1,200. My buddy Gopher thinks the thing looks sick, right? He was like, "This looks
He's
so
right.
sick," and I'm
It
like,
does
"Yeah,
look
it does
sick.
look good." But I was like, "Does it look $1,000 good?" And he's like, "Absolutely." So he's gonna be trying his best to get it, and I wonder if there's a price point that even he would be like, "No, you know what? That's too much for just a console that I could just."
$2,000.
I don't know. For me, I'm not sure there's any sort of nostalgia they could pull on me to want to be able to get. A limited edition Xbox, right? Because I don't know, I never, even when I would buy physical games, I just wanted the game. I didn't care about the collector's edition. I wasn't into collecting the statues or dolls that came with it. I know some people really, really do like that. And then there's the special edition consoles. I always just needed the one. I was just like, well, I don't really need a Star Wars console or a Minecraft console or a Gears console or Halo console, any of these sort of things, because it was just like, what am I going to do? It's just going to sit in a corner somewhere. I'm not going to use it because my Xbox is still perfectly playable, right? So I was just like, I don't really need all this extra stuff. So, if I was thinking of like, well, if Microsoft came out with like a, say like an Xbox Series X, or whenever they do their 30th anniversary, and they come out with like a special, hey, 360 inspired whatever, what I wouldn't, unless I didn't have the system, I'd be like, all right, well, how much more are you charging me? If I was somebody interested in the Pro for $700, but then was like, oh, well, you can get this for $1,300 because it's gray and it's limited edition, I'd be like, that's too much. What are we doing here? At least to me, I wouldn't spend the extra money on it, but
You're not nostalgic, man. Like there are franchises and things that I love so much that I would spend the money on it. Because for me, it's like it just means that much to me.
yeah.
Completely subjective. Like some people would rather like take a vacation or something and go to Hawaii or something, or do something like that. I like if like there's like a piece of WoW merch that's premium, expensive, and looks amazing, and I want it, I will buy it. Even if it's financially responsible, sadly. But I'm lucky because like I don't have kids, don't have a mortgage.
You got a
So I'm
girlfriend
kind of
though.
like
You got to save for
I
that
do,
ring.
yeah. Maybe I'll make it like metallurgy or something.
Yeah, maybe. Leo says in the super chat, "Hey, are we ever going to see Japanese region exclusive titles reaching back compat program, or is that hope long gone? Also, any wording about World of Warcraft localization?"
Localization. I don't know much about World of Warcraft localization, but I think I did say. Did I say on the show or on Unshackle Fury? My opinion that the game will come to console is increased recently based on some things I've heard. I used to think like there's just no way they'll be able to port this to console just because of the complexity of the gameplay, but apparently they're looking into it. So, but I don't know about localization. And what was the other part of the question?
About Japanese region exclusive titles reaching backwards compatibility, or is that hope long gone? So I guess stuff like Eternal Sonata, maybe stuff
some
like
of
that.
the old school 360 games, like
I guess.
Oh man, I don't know. Probably not. I mean, if it's like if they're out here saying they've sort of maxed out what they can do backwards compatibility, I think like if they are gonna try to do something, it'd probably be more on the line of ABK stuff they haven't done yet. That's just my opinion though. I could be wrong. We'll see.
All right, let's see what else we got here. We have Juan says, why Jez's voice during the ad read sounds like the dude that makes the Terranator ads. Look for it on YouTube. Apparently you sound like Terranator? I never heard of this person.
Terranator, I don't know him. But
he also says,
I'm going to take that as a compliment.
To people mentioning the promises that Sarah made about new hardware this year, are we forgetting that they are not the best at keeping their word? For example, where is the family plan? So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you know, earlier when I was talking about, I mentioned about Matt Booty not having a hard job, but I didn't actually finish what I was gonna say. And I was gonna say like, yeah, Matt Booty's got a hard job because he's got to fix the perception of people have about Xbox's game output. But there's also the difficulty that Sarah Bond's got on her end, which is A, the mobile store, which Apple and Google are gonna do everything in their power to block and make business unviable for Microsoft. And then you've also got like it's her job to grow Game Pass. And one of the things about growing Game Pass is these features like family plan. Where's the family plan? And making that work, and then you know all the other stuff. And Game Pass has become so weird and convoluted and confusing recently. Like a family member of mine got a Series S recently to take to college, just you know to play Valorant and Fortnite and stuff like that, and maybe Call of Duty. And I remember trying to explain what you know Xbox Live Gold was and the concept of playing online, for which they had no concept because previously the whole idea of paying to play online was foreign, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, Sarah's got a lot of platform stuff that she needs to fix, and I do know that family plan is not dead. It's still something they want to do, but it's also like it depends on a lot of factors, including um getting publishers on board and making publishers think that it's worth it. So I suppose we just have to wait and see. And maybe I'm gonna write about some of this stuff next week. So maybe we can give them a kick, and I'll send Microsoft a message asking for information on you know what their plans are there. Maybe they'll give us an answer. You know, we'll see.
Yeah. BT Maverick says, still no word on Xbox owned games being playable over the xCloud service. Jez, do you think AMD will do the APU for Xbox's handheld? I wish it was Nvidia.
Yeah, it's probably almost certainly going to be AMD. It's just so much cheaper, so much. It's better margins to use AMD, for better or worse. I know some people don't. Some people prefer Nvidia and stuff like that. But Nvidia stuff is really expensive. You pay a premium for that, especially when especially when you sort of when you're pushing it like to mass production, you pay a huge premium for Nvidia stuff. So highly doubt that. I highly doubt that it'll be Nvidia that Microsoft puts in its system. Also, they've just got like way more experience working with Nvidia, AMD, and the drivers and all that kind of stuff. So if I was a betting man, and I'm not, I would bet the Xbox handheld and the next Xbox console are both AMD, just like PlayStation.
Well, did you see the reports that came out that Intel lost the bid for the PS6, which is, you know, we're talking about the PS6 was 4 years, that it was between Intel and AMD, and you know they lost out on it, and of course they're going with AMD. And then there was another rumor or something that was going around that there are 2 PlayStation SoCs in development for next generation, implying that Sony could be making a console plus a handheld, or maybe a high-end and a low-end console.
It would be a screaming endorsement of the Xbox Series S.
Could you
if
imagine?
Sony did do.
Yeah.
The mental gymnastics we're gonna see if Sony does a PS6S, the mental gymnastics from fanboys is going to be delectable. It's going to be delectable.
That would be funny. That would be really funny.
It would be funny, but I'd be shocked if they were going to do that.
I imagine
shocked
it is
going to be a handheld.
I would say it's going to be more of a handheld, but even then, handheld's not going to be as powerful as, you know, a console.
Yeah, but at least people understand the compromise there a bit more. Like you say, value isn't sexy, but like at least they're like, oh well, it's handheld, so I expect it to be like the Nintendo Switch, or like, you know, compromised or Steam Deck-ish in some capacity. What I'm more interested in is like whether Xbox's or Sony's is better, which is more powerful, which has better battery life. What? Because there's a lot of factors there. Whereas like the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X on paper are a bit different, but the reality is that they are quite similar in their delivery of games. I think when it comes to handheld stuff, there could be really divergent performance there potentially. But yeah, I don't know. What was the other part of that question?
So let's imagine like the PS4, PS6 doesn't come out until 2028, and let's say they offer a console and a handheld. I'm guessing Xbox's handheld will be out in 2026. If
Huh.
not earlier, maybe they could even put one out in 2025.
Maybe.
So at that point, you would think, well, Sony's handheld will probably be better, but then Xbox might be on their second iteration by the time that 2028 comes around, because we've seen how fast they iterate with the ROG Ally, the Ally X, and like all these different Steam Deck 2, right, where you don't necessarily need to wait 5-6 years like you would between a Switch and a Switch 2. It's like, here's the original Xbox handheld in 2025, and then 2-3 years later, here's a better version of it, right?
Well, honestly, there's a caveat here.
Okay.
Because I think it depends how they subsidize the hardware, right? Because right now, the Steam Deck is subsidized to some degree, but it's still not as subsidized as a traditional console is. So I think like if the handhelds are sold at a premium, then I think you will see more rapid iteration. But if they're subsidized, and I think there will be, I think you won't see the kind of rapid iteration that the non-subsidized Windows-based handhelds get, because they have like nothing to lose, because they're not tied to the platform. They're just making a device that connects to Steam or other platforms, Epic Games, Xbox Store, whatever. So they have nothing to lose with doing rapid iterations. Whereas, like, if these are more traditional consoles, I don't know if they have necessarily the same rapid iteration style, but I think the other part of the question he asked was, when is Xbox bringing your own games to cloud? And that was the other part of Sarah Bond's difficult job right now, is convincing publishers to let her do that. And I heard originally that this was supposed to happen over the summer, but has now since been delayed to Q4 being the winter, and it could be delayed even further still. So the current time frame that I heard recently was they're gunning for the end of the year for bring your own games to cloud. And it won't be all games, because some publishers are opting out of it. Some publishers want to make their own cloud. So don't expect all games to be there. But I think like there's going to be hundreds, maybe thousands of games that will be there. I expect like a lot of the indie devs will be all in on it, because they'll just be like, oh yeah, that'd be, it's another platform for us to sell our games on and potentially make some money. And a lot of indie games will probably be better for cloud, especially on handhelds and stuff. So they won't have more complicated graphics, which confuses Xbox's algorithm for some reason, their encoding algorithm. So there's a lot of potential that it could be towards the end of the year, but we'll see.
Yeah. We have Nerds and Other Legends with the 10. A lot of Xbox's strength success is because of Microsoft, but the corporate baggage of Microsoft is also their biggest weakness. Is there a world where they could be severed from each other? Spun off, like Microsoft spins off the Xbox division?
I don't know if you want to live in that universe. Because Xbox would have to pay a premium for Azure and all that shit, so you're going to see even thinner margins there. Like, everyone loves Valve and Steam, and rightfully so, but people have much higher expectations of Xbox to deliver like a vast amount of games and exclusives and stuff. And Valve just have a variety of very popular service games. So like maybe they could spin them off if all you want Xbox to make is if all you want Xbox to make is a bunch of service games, then sure, maybe they could do that. If you want Xbox to have a variety of games as well as funding things like Idea Xbox and, things that aren't necessarily great margins, then I don't think you want to live in that universe where they have to pay an overhead for server technology and stuff like that. What we just need really is a new CEO. Basically me. If I was the CEO of Microsoft, everything would be perfect.
Yeah, their stock price would be $0 the day that happens.
What? Yeah. Come on, dude. I know how to run a billion-dollar company.
Introducing Jez Corden, and everyone would be like, who? And be like, my first is we're taking all the money and we're making Windows Mobile again, and everyone was just like, oh man, sell Microsoft. It's done.
I'd shut down all the investment in AI, and I'd just be like, Windows Phone's coming back, baby. And I'll do like Steve Ballmer did and start dancing around on stage and sweating. the same developers over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be great at running I'd be great at running a billion-dollar company. Don't you think, Rand? I'd also take away the Halo budget and give all that to Warcraft.
Yuck.
Bye, Halo. Nobody needs Halo anymore, right, guys?
Yeah, nope.
Everyone in chat agrees.
Nobody in chat agrees. Paraffi in Super Chat says, why is there no Black Ops 6 flight sim or indie controller? Yeah, I guess like the flight, I wouldn't expect a flight sim controller. Indie controller, I still, maybe that's too soon. The game comes out in less than 3 months, or maybe not. But Black Ops 6, yeah, you would wonder why isn't there at least, doesn't seem like there's going to be a custom console.
No.
Which is, PlayStation had custom, or at least a bundle that had the game with it like every year of their agreement. But you would think maybe a custom Call of Duty Black Ops 6 controller would probably sell very well. Game comes out in a month, and it's not like it's been announced yet, so it doesn't look like that's happening. And there are questions about how much Microsoft can actually advertise, like, it's on Game Pass outside of their own YouTube channel and stuff.
They can advertise it's on Game Pass, from what I've heard.
Okay.
It's just like, why would you do it the month before you can subscribe to get it? So I think you'll see some Game Pass inserts and advertising closer to
the launch of the game.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But why not a Black Ops controller, Jez? We know Xbox loves making controllers. You've talked about how some of their controllers are, expensive on eBay. Like, where's that Call of Duty controller?
I don't know, man. I mean, honestly, where's a lot of Xbox custom stuff, to be honest?
True.
They could even do like, one of those wraps. They had like,
they've only done 3 wraps so far, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean,
they haven't done any since then. So,
I was thinking like maybe they didn't sell that well, but at the same time, it's like that can't be that expensive to make. I mean, I would have thought it would be worth it to some degree. Maybe they bought too much stock. Maybe they thought they'd be more popular than they are. I think the answer there is just don't make so much stock. But I don't know. Maybe they're gonna bring some of the merchandise and stuff in house because of the whole Blizzard stuff. Like, Blizzard is legendarily good at merchandise. So I don't know. Maybe they expand that.
They could do like Xbox Design Lab for Call of Duty controller. Because remember, what was the recent
game? They did Fallout.
Yeah, they did Fallout.
They did Fallout and
Design Lab. So maybe they could do something similar to that with Black Ops 6 or Call of Duty when you get closer to. But you would even still. You'd probably, if you were going to do that, you'd probably have to do it soon because people would have to get on the website and make their controllers, and you want their controllers to get to them by the time the game comes out. So yeah, I don't know there. Will Broke Boy Lewis says, I'm honestly surprised they aren't also just selling the 30th anniversary edition plates only as well. Yeah, you think that you could sell as much of that as you'd want, but I don't know. Jez, one of the big things that happened this week, Nintendo related, Nintendo was big in the news, was one, the Switch 2 apparently leaked. Visuals and everything, specs, and I guess there's... I really haven't been following this much, that much. Like, I saw the initial pictures of what the console looked like at the handheld, and I was like, hey, that's a Switch. Yeah, bigger, right? All those sort of things. But you were saying to me earlier that maybe it could be a fake, or at least there's discussion that it might be a fake, possibly.
I saw some discourse that it was some 3D. It was the model was found on a 3D printer website, but it's hard to tell, like, with some of these kind of leaks, like what's real and what ain't these days. I mean, it looks like a Switch. Doesn't, not exactly a shock. If it is real, it's not exactly a shocking revision. And I think we all knew that's what the Switch 2 was going to be. This is their platform now. But I do wonder, like, if Sony and Microsoft start coming out with their own vastly more powerful, potentially, handhelds, they could eat a bit of Nintendo's lunch, and then Nintendo might have to start looking at PC as well. I do think there is a universe where Nintendo themselves has to consider PC.
Oh man,
And
don't
as
say that. Down at
as a
Taco sees in chat, he's probably really upset right now.
well, as a dude who plays a lot of games on PC, I would not be against that. At least I could get Metroid without owning one console. You know, I really hate this idea of buying a console just for a couple of games. The only Nintendo game I really want to play is Metroid, and
Right.
I ain't buying. I don't like having a console that just gathers dust just while I wait for the 1 or 2 games that I want to play on it. I'd much rather play Metroid on my ROG Ally or, my PC
Couldn't you
on
find a
Steam.
Metroid game that emulated that you could play on your ROG Ally that is better than the Switch version? I'm sure that exists somewhere. I'm sure that exists somewhere.
It does exist, I've heard. But are you suggesting I break
I,
federal laws around copyright? Are you suggesting, Rand, that I raise the ire of Nintendo's very hyperactive legal department to do? You wouldn't download a car, Rand, so I'm not going to download Super Metroid either. That's illegal. Rand
some people.
Oh, but we do know, Rand, from your previous anecdotes, that you play fast and loose with the law.
Fast and loose.
Fast and loose. I'm not surprised you would suggest such a thing.
Wow. Well, what have I done to suggest to anybody that I play fast and loose with the law?
I can't remember exactly what the anecdote was, but I remember the takeaway was Randall criminal.
Randall criminal.
Randall criminal. Yeah. So I'm not surprised your mind immediately went to theft. Rand. No, I won't be stealing Metroid. I'll just patiently wait for Nintendo to just be like, you know what? Xbox made a better handheld, and they've got better games than us.
What
Halo,
I have seen people.
The next Halo is a banger, and we have no choice but to move to PC.
You know what I have seen people do is they'll say, all right, Metroid Prime or maybe Legend of Zelda or what have you. They'll buy the game on the eShop or something, right?
Then emulate it.
And then emulate it because they'll think, they'll say to themselves, well, I paid for it and Nintendo got my money and I'm just using this as backup or whatever. And they play the more powerful PC version or emulated version.
In some states, and don't take this as legal advice because I ain't 100% sure, but I'm sure I read that in some states there is legal precedent where it's like version shifting of a digital content you own is legal. I'm sure I read that, or someone who knows better than me said that. But I also don't know if that's just copium and people are like, oh yeah, I bought it, so I can emulate it. But I sure as hell know that it's not legal in England. So version shifting is not legal in the United Kingdom. It should be though. Like if I buy it, then I should be able to version shift it. But oh well, digital laws are well behind for gaming in some regards.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if the Switch 2 leak is real, then they probably. Well, we haven't seen if they've DMCA'd anybody, right? Like, which would lead to it being real, because the images are all over everywhere. But if people are getting that ballsy enough to take pictures of whatever it is and upload it, then they probably should reveal the thing sooner rather than later. And I know there's some speculation that there is going to be a Switch 2 reveal this month. I know like Andy Robinson and Chris String are kind of heavily hinting at it. I saw some devs even say that they visited Nintendo of America for whatever reasons. So maybe that happens sooner rather than later. But that's not the only reason why Nintendo's in the news. We know the Switch 2 is coming, releasing sometime early next year. And I'm sure the industry definitely needs that that boost that a new Nintendo hardware would bring, because a lot of people are going to buy it, and I'm sure people are going to go crazy when they show off the next Mario and the next. Well, probably can't show off the next Zelda. Actually, well, I don't know. There's so many Zeldas because there's like the Zelda Breath of the Wild, and but then there's a Zelda. Isn't there a new Zelda that's coming out this year? But it's
Link to the Past too, or
like
something.
The older Zeldas, or like the 3DS Zeldas or something.
Dude, Randolph Thornhight, my friend. Can they not just do what Sony's doing and just remaster all that shit, bro? Came out a couple of years ago. Who cares? Remaster that shit. Switch 2 version, remaster it.
Whoa, $70. Jez. Whoa.
What, dude? That's cool. Now we remaster things that came out 5 minutes ago, right? That's what we're doing now, right?
Are you
Right. Right.
okay? Okay. Well, is that where you want to go next? You want to talk about these remasters, then get back? All right, fine. You brought it up. Yeah. I mean, why not remaster content that's not that old? ESRB has come out and rated a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster, which is a game from 2017 and actually got a PS5 update, so the game runs at 4K 60 and all this stuff. But not only Horizon, but it's heavily rumored that Days Gone, a game from 2019, if I'm not mistaken, is also getting a remaster. Are these your PS5 Pro games that are going to launch around the PS5 Pro because Sony doesn't have any first-party stuff launching anytime soon or whatever?
It kind of sucks that they would sell the better version when on PC. This is just again another boost for PC because it's like, bro, you're gonna sell me a resolution, you're gonna sell me a texture pack, you're gonna sell me frame rate as a DLC. I don't think so, mate.
Well, usually
I get all that shit for free.
there is some upgrade path for these things. Like I know people who bought who did own like Last of Us Part 2 were able to get the remastered thing for yeah, but people look at it like, oh, it's only $10. It's no big deal.
Yeah, people look at it that way, but again, you get that shit for free on PC.
But apparently this Horizon thing's also coming to PC. But Horizon's already on PC. So are they gonna update that version for free for people? Are they gonna make people pay for it on PlayStation? Why are we remastering games that are 7 years old or 5 years old? And I think there's been a lot of PlayStation fans that really don't like this idea of this because I've seen PlayStation fans, and rightly so, being like, why remaster Horizon and Days Gone that don't need a remaster, that had PS5 actual updates? Why not go back and remaster Resistance
Bloodborne,
or Killzone 2 or Bloodborne, right? Like some of the PS3 IPs that have, at least you could then be like, oh yeah, you know what? Killzone 2 is old enough where you're like, yeah, you know what? Let's remaster it or remake it or what have you. I think most people would be like, yeah, that's actually a good idea. Why not? Like it needs it. It's from 2 generations ago. I'm fully behind it. But like a game that is 7 years old at this point, from a game that already looked great and then even looked better with the PS5, PS5 update with 60 frames. It's like the game already looks fantastic, and then they're going to add some like tech from Forbidden West or what have you, and it's like, bro, but like Sony's all about this because this isn't the first time they've done it, right? The Death Stranding remaster, they did a Ghost of Tsushima remaster. There's an Until Dawn remake remaster that's coming out soon. They did the Demon's Souls remake, which is a lot more work went into the Demon's Souls remake than a normal remaster. How many times did they remaster Last of Us? The Last of Us 2 got remastered. So it's one of these things where Sony takes like anything popular and eventually down the road it's like, okay, let's remaster these things and sell it again. We have the PS5 Pro with some of these things that it could use, and we have some new things we could put in the game. Boom, and we could get the people to buy it again if they want.
Well, at the end of the day, people buy it. Like, what you're gonna do, right? If it's people gonna buy it, then it's smart business. But at the same time, it's like Sony's very meticulous about their public image. And one thing I've noticed in PC, like hardcore online PC communities, they are coming at Sony all the time lately. Whether it's the login for single player games on Steam, or the way Helldivers 2's live service has been handled, and all this kind of stuff. They are not ingratiating themselves to PC gamers very well right now. And this whole concept of like, if they are going to try and sell what it amounts to a texture pack, for a premium on Steam, that could end very badly for them from a PR, a marketing PR perspective. So it is interesting watching Sony try to navigate this market because it's clear that their inexperience here is showing. It reminds me of it's not as extreme as games for Windows Live, but it's not far off, in a way, in some ways. It's interesting.
I know. I just sort of
But
feel
it's a brave new world. Lots of companies are struggling to try. I mean, Xbox is pissing off its own fans right now, and Sony's pissing off PC gamers. So
well, they're
everyone's
also
kind
pissing
of
off some of their own fans with some of the stuff they've been doing. Like
really.
Well, some of their fans don't like their PC initiatives. Some of their fans are very much of the opinion that it doesn't matter if the PC fans don't like what they're doing. Like Sony should just stop making PC ports of their games.
I very rarely see any of the so-called PC pundits, YouTubers, the podcasters. I very rarely see them give hard criticism of Sony. Maybe like Sacred Symbols is the only one that will criticize.
No, I'm
Sony,
saying I've seen some PlayStation fans saying that. Okay, you look at like the low reviews for God of War on Steam, and like it's only a 22,000 concurrent when the first game 2018 had 75,000 as like a high concurrent, and the problems they had with Helldivers, right, with the PSN login requirements, which apparently is one of the big problems that they have with God of War Ragnarok. I've seen a lot of PlayStation fans say, hey, you know what? Screw these ungrateful PC guys. Let's just go back to making PlayStation exclusives and don't put anything on PC ever. Right? Because they're ungrateful sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, but the reason they're going to PC is because they need the extra revenue. Otherwise, some of these games maybe don't get made, especially if you're spending $400 million on Concord or whatever it is.
Yeah, that was the other
I
topic.
don't know. I just sort of wonder if Xbox, I know they wouldn't announce this at TGS, but imagine if you were sitting there watching an Xbox showcase and they said, all right, and come and keep in mind, I think some PlayStation fans have been waiting for Sony to drop a roadmap of what their first-party studios are working on, and there really isn't a lot of info. It's like Death Stranding 2, and it's Wolverine, and it's Marathon, which I don't know if you saw Paul Tassi's report. Apparently that's going to be $40. It's too late to go back to free-to-play or what have you. And I think maybe, I don't know if there's another game, but there's not that many announced unfair games. There's not that many announced PlayStation first-party games in comparison to Xbox, which we seems to know like all of everything the Xbox is doing, right? So when you hear about, okay, there's a state of play coming soon, and you're hoping that Sony's finally going to be like, here's some new games from Naughty Dog and Sucker Punch and what have you, but then all you're hearing about is these like, oh, well, here's a Horizon and Days Gone remaster. You're probably starting to think to yourself, well, what the hell's going on? Like, what are all these other studios doing? Why is it taking so long? And I kind of thought, like, imagine if we were sitting there watching an Xbox show, and they're like, and launching this fall, we are bringing you Gears of War 5 remastered. You'd be sitting there being like, why does Gears of War 5 need to be remastered? It's a game from 2019. Or, or if they're like, coming out this fall, Forza Horizon 3 remastered. You'd be like, what? These games don't need remasters. I don't know if any game from the Xbox One generation needs a remaster at this point. At all, really. Maybe a couple gens down the line when, technology's better, maybe you do it then. But if anything, it's just kind of like, that seems, I don't know, it sort of seems cash grabby in a way, and kind of more of, all right, well, we know that these our other bigger games are taking a lot longer, so let's fill some of the gaps with games that we know people like. And a Horizon remaster and a Days Gone remaster probably aren't going to take that much time or money or resources to do. because clearly it's probably not Guerrilla working on the Horizon thing, so it's not like you're pulling people off of like whatever Guerrilla's doing next. But then it's like you look at it and you're like, well, whoever that money and that time and resources could have been put to actually making something new. So I think that's maybe what people want. Or maybe it's not what people want. I don't know. It's like, oh yeah.
At the end of the day, it's probably a trivial amount of work, and that there's probably plenty of people that'll buy it to justify the cost. So, it's a capitalism at the end of the day. So if supply and demand, if there's demand, then supply, and do they need to do it? Probably not, but I guess it amounts to free money, man.
Well, I mean, there is the Horizon TV show. Actually, no, did the Horizon TV show get canceled? I think it did. I think it did get canceled at Netflix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember there being something, I forget, maybe there's a little something in the Variety article about it. I know there's still supposed to be a God of War show. I wonder if they'll remake or remaster the God of War game when that TV show gets closer. Yeah, but I guess the other bit of news before we get back to the Nintendo stuff is Concord, at least according to Colin Moriarty, and I'll bring up what his tweet he said. It's kind of making the rounds because, there's been a lot of debate and discussion about Concord because of just how, like the game came out and it just disappeared. Sony pulled the plug on it after 2 weeks, and
sure did.
We've had discussions about it and whatnot. But there was a talk about how expensive this game was and how much Sony believed in it because, they bought the studio that was making it, blah, 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 blah. Well, Colin Moriarty says on his Twitter, he clipped 9 minutes from his podcast. He says, I spoke extensively with someone who worked on Concord, and it's so much worse than you think. It was internally referred to as, quote, the future of PlayStation, end quote, with Star Wars-like potential and a dev culture of, quote, toxic positivity, quote, halted any negative feedback, making it cost $400 million. Which, I don't know.
$400 million.
Which you read that and you're like...
true, that's just mind-blowing, right?
You read that and you're like...
no other word.
You read that and you're like, no way that thing costs $400 million. No way that people at PlayStation thought that would be a good investment and then thought that it had Star Wars-like potential, because literally everybody who saw that first trailer and saw the gameplay was like, yeah, I think this shit's going to flop. Who asked for this? I did see a couple tweets from some Kotaku writer who kind of backed up a little bit of what Colin was saying. Ethan Gatch over at Kotaku says, I can corroborate the part about toxic positivity. Some sources I've spoken to with blamed ahead and the sand mentality carried over from the studio's Bungie roots. A sense that the game would come together because the team was too good to fail.
Rand,
more next week.
Do you remember what I said about Bungie when The Last of Us Factions was cancelled?
Do you
remember
say,
what I said?
That it was asinine to put all your eggs in a basket and trusting Bungie, I believe, was something along those lines, right?
Bungie, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to all the Destiny fans out there. Bungie and Destiny is not a good example of a service game. It's not. The game is extraordinarily expensive to make, delivers content on a snail's pace. It's not how you make a PvE service game. It just isn't, from a pure business perspective. And if you're relying on Bungie to tell you how to make a service game, you are doing a bad job. That is not the right way to go about it. Bungie doesn't have a clue how to make a service game. And I think that's why Microsoft ultimately passed on them. Yeah, I know Destiny's had its heyday, and it's got its fan base. Not a good service game from a pure business perspective. And this is why Xbox passed on it. So when you're looking at games like, Concord, which clearly, if it's true, and if it's true that Last of Us Factions was cancelled because of negative feedback from Bungie, then Concord undoubtedly had some Bungie hands on it. where they were like, "Oh, Bungie, is this a good game? Is this a good game?" Because clearly, like Jim Ryan and these dudes don't actually play any games, so like they're relying on Bungie to tell them what's a good game, and Bungie themselves don't know what's a good game. I'm sorry, I said what I said.
Well, I mean,
So
the idea that we've seen a lot of examples of like BioWare magic, right? Where the studios that have had big hits in the past and have a troubled development believe that the game will come together just because of how it's always come together, right? And it's like, oh, maybe the game may not be great now, but it'll be fine by the end. We know what we're doing. We're fucking BioWare, right? Or we're Bungie or what have you. We're Rocksteady, right? And the game doesn't come together, and it's not good, and it really stains the studio and all that stuff. So it sounds like something happened similar to Concord where they thought, we're just too good of a studio to put out a stinker, and it'll all come together. But, man, I just can't wrap my head around the idea of this being $400 million, or internally, the game being called the future of PlayStation. Apparently, Colin also said that this was Holman Hulst's baby. Like, he loved it. He loved the studio, loved the game, loved the property. And it's like, yo, I know some people give some shit to Matt Booty, being the head of Xbox Game Studios and what have you. But, I mean, that's like a big indictment on him if that's the case, if he's like pushing for that and then it comes out and it's dead in 2 weeks. You're talking about like the biggest gaming flop of all time. You know, I know people point to E.T. because they dumped some copies in a landfill, but E.T. didn't cost no $400 million. E.T. wasn't pulled after 2 weeks. And I guess this is the danger of the live service. You know, we know Sony had a lot of live service initiatives because they wanted that extra revenue and all, and that growth. And you had a success with Helldivers for sure, but then you had the ultimate fail with Concord. And, you know, I saw a couple people on Twitter being like, man, Concord's really going to overshadow what has been a good year for PlayStation, because it's like, hey, Helldivers 2 could be a Game of the Year contender. Astrobot for sure is most likely going to win Game of the Year based on the critics' reviews and stuff. And, you know, they've had some big exclusives from third party. For whatever reason, why Black Myth Wukong didn't, skip to Xbox, or, the Money Hat with Final Fantasy VII and stuff. But Concord's this ever-looming presence because it speaks to just missed opportunities and maybe just a vision of a future that could be the wrong way to go, and how long it would take to turn around a ship that was pointed down one way, where you're like, no, we need the revenue, we need the live service, that's the future of gaming, and you put all your money and your resources in this, and then suddenly you're like, well, actually, I don't know if this is the right way, and the person who kind of steered all that, Jim Ryan, he leaves before any of this stuff comes out. He's gone, he made the great escape.
Flying Ryan.
Jim, I forget, Jim crying, flying, lion, Ryan, what have you. Like,
dance moves.
He put all this stuff in motion. PS5 got off to a blazing start with sales. He had the battle with Phil Spencer over ABK. And then he walked away. He left before any of that stuff went into fruition, before Microsoft bought ABK, before any of Sony's plans with live service stuff actually took hold, and he was gone. And it's like, all right, Helldivers 2, big success, right? Beginning of the year, their fastest selling game, and you're like, all right, man, Sony's good. Is Sony really going to nail live service right out of the gate? Like, holy shit. And then, like, no, by the end of the year, they have, like, the biggest live service bomb of all time. It's like $400 million for that? But it's just a multiplayer mode. It's just a 5v5 with some modes. How do you spend $400 million on that? I don't know. It didn't even have a campaign. I mean, I guess you could say it had, really expensive mocapping, because they did mocapping for it. But you look at it and you're like, where the, all right, assuming it's true, right? Where the fuck did that money go? What did they fucking spend it on?
Tell me something. What country was the game developed in?
Probably here in the U.S., but I don't know where.
Isn't Fire Sprite British?
I mean, are they? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. They could be.
I need to double check this, but I'm currently struggling with my PC. Fire Sprite is a British video game developer formed in 2012. See, part of me honestly thinks, like, was Sony just too far away from the situation? Were they just blindsided?
I don't know, considering apparently this was Hermen Hulst's baby. I doubt it. It wouldn't be your baby if you're not playing it and visiting the devs enough. I mean, you wouldn't feel that sort of way about the game, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't call it the future of PlayStation internally if you weren't playing it and you didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
But then it makes you say, if that's really true, if they really dubbing it internally the future of PlayStation, like, that's got to be pretty goddamn concerning. I don't know. I'd be like, holy fucking shit. Have we missed what's right in front of us? Like, what's going on? I don't know, man. It's just crazy. $400 million. I mean, there was the rumors that Halo Infinite cost $500 million.
Yep.
And even then,
did all right in the end.
But even then, I don't necessarily know if I even believe that number. I mean, I guess you could sort of figure out those numbers, like how many employees at 343, what's the average salary, how long have they been working on the game, and then, do some napkin math and figure out, okay, you multiply all those things and add it up, and boom, that's how much it cost, right? But still, even still, when people talk about GTA 6 being $1 billion to make, just like $1 billion, what? Granted, Grand Theft Auto is going to make that money back, but $1 billion? Like, that seems ridiculous. And that seems like absurd.
Wait, is it Fire Sprite or Firewalk we're talking about now? Am I getting them mixed up?
You might be getting them mixed up. I think this was Firewalk.
Okay.
Fire Sprite.
Fire Sprite developed Playroom, Sackboy, Persistence, and Horizon Call of the Mountain.
Yeah, and apparently they're making like Until Dawn 2 or something. So Firewalk.
Okay. My bad. Firewalk is based. Tom Warren says Firewalk is based in Bellevue, Microsoft Cities / Bungie City. Thanks, Tom, for the fact check there. But yeah, it's like part of me was just wondering, like, is this a Redfall situation where they're blindsided by it because of proximity issues? But clearly, it's not the case. So we were talking before the show a little bit about it, discussing the topics, and you said it was the biggest flop in history.
It has to be. It literally has to be. What other game out there would cost that much and then was pulled after 2 weeks? What other game? It's literally got to be the biggest flop in gaming history. And then I saw like the game director step down from the game, and the studio's kind of waiting to see what Sony's decision is going to be surrounding the game's future, and they're worried about it. And it's like, well, I don't know. Like, I guess you could maybe spend a year trying to turn it free to play, but is anybody even still going to care? Are you going to throw good money chasing after bad just because you spent all that money on the game? Is it better just to cut now and just be like, we're moving on? There's no reason to spend any more money on this. But then it makes you wonder if they had that much faith in that game, assuming Colin's reporting's right, then it makes you wonder about Fair Games, it makes you wonder about Marathon, it makes you wonder about any of the other live service stuff that they have in development. If they missed that badly on Concord, and that was Hermen Hulst's baby, dubbed the future of PlayStation with Star Wars-like potential, and you miss that badly on that? I don't know. I mean, that is like, should you be in the position that you're in then executively? I don't know. I mean, that is a massive flop that like Astrobot being a Game of the Year contender, that's going to win Game of the Year isn't going to cover up because Astrobot's a game that's only going to maybe sell like 3 to 5 million lifetime or what have you. Like I don't know, man. Like it's my mind boggling. Like when it was 200 million, even then it was kind of like that's a lot of money for just a multiplayer shooter. Now it's 400 million. Now it doubled, and I still struggle to wrap my mind around that.
It's if Xbox is struggling to navigate like the decrease in playtime hours and the overspend during the pandemic, and their struggle is trying to figure out how to grow their platform in a universe where their console hardware isn't growing. This is Sony's struggle. Is figuring out how they can deliver a Fortnite, basically. And I can't remember, I think it might have been a GameIndustry.biz article, which is like an analysis of why so many publishers are struggling right now. Oh yeah, that's right. It was a GameIndustry.biz analysis of the whole Ubisoft situation. And so a studio head sent me that article, and he was like, this is a good example of, some of the issues that we're all suffering from right now, and you should read it. So I did read it, and it was kind of like, it was a sort of an examination, a post-mortem of Ubisoft's issues, basically. And it was kind of like, when I was reading it, it made me realize that so many companies overspent during the pandemic, and so many companies are now sort of floundering with trying to figure out what's next. And just like PlayStation, Ubisoft doesn't have a Fortnite to fall back on, or a Minecraft, or a Call of Duty, or a Apex Legends, or a Sims. I don't know if you've seen how much EA has spent on the Sims, growing the Sims recently. Like, that's become huge for them. They've also got FIFA. A lot of the big publishers have like this cash cow that they can rely on to just print money. And Ubisoft does have some successes here. They got Rainbow Six Siege, but it's nowhere near as big as it once was. And it's had its lunch eaten a little bit by games like Valorant, and the resurgence of Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, that sort of tactical itch, But what does Sony do to fill that gap in their lineup? They've got the big, expensive AAA story narrative-driven games on lock, but is that what's driving the future of the industry? Is that where the growth's coming from? The God of War kind of games? You answer that for me, Rand. Is that where the growth's coming from?
I don't know. I don't know where the growth's going to come from.
Not coming from games like God of War, I'm telling you. As much as people our age don't want to admit it, it's not coming from those kind of games.
Still though, $400 million.
If you want to make a Fortnite, that's the kind of game money you're gonna have to spend, and the rewards are insane if you can pull it off. But these are the risks, evidently. And if you blow in $400 million, that's an obscene cock up. So I think like also in the reports were also saying like the studio had resigned, I believe.
Yeah.
And also the studio is now in sort of like this holding pattern where they're just sort of like waiting to find out what happens to their studio and what happens to their game. Because Sony's clearly, whether or not they're willing to sink more money into pivoting this to free to play, and that ain't guaranteed either. They'll have to spend what, another.
If I'm in charge, if
what do you do?
If I'm in Harmon Hall's position, right, or whoever's in charge over at PlayStation, and I need to make a decision about Concord's future, I'd be like, no, we're not. I'm not spending any more money on this game, because there's no guarantee that you could spend a year changing, making it free to play. I don't know what else you would need to do. You would need to
make the characters more appealing.
Change the characters, maybe change the graphical style. I don't know if you'd add a PvE mode or whatever. But I mean, I don't know how much more money that would take to actually make it viable. And then there's still like, is anybody even going to care if you do it? So if I was head of PlayStation, Nah, I'm saying we're done. It's over. Now, I don't know about like the studio's future, but the game itself, like I'd be very much like how EA was like, where BioWare kind of was doing like a demo of like Anthem Next, trying to save what was, hey, we could save Anthem, and then EA decided no, and then EA went on to start working on Dragon Age stuff and like Mass Effect stuff. If I was PlayStation and I was like Herman Hulst, even though if it was my baby, and maybe you're blinded because like you thought so much of the game or what have you, I'd be like, no, we're done. Like, move on. I don't know if we need to shut you down, but because it's not just so easy to just be like, all right, make me another game, because that won't. Another game's 5 years from now, and how are you going to cash flow the studio? Because you literally had to refund everybody. So now you made $0 on Concord and probably lost money on it based on on a lot of stuff, and there's no money going into the studio because you had to refund everybody. So how are you going to keep them afloat for the next 5 years if they're working on something new? Do you just have them turn it into a support studio helping out other stuff or whatever? But even still, if you want to work on your own game, you're talking about years and years and years away. This isn't the 360 gen anymore where you could turn a game around in 2 years. Oh, you had a failure? All right, boom, let's get back to work and turn on a new game in 2 years. All right, we're
even
done.
Like,
here's the new game, and it's
Halo,
a success,
Yeah. I think Halo Infinite did eventually become profitable, but it was a tough road to get there, and it's like that's money that could have been spent on, boosting a game that was already seeing success, like, Elder Scrolls Online or something like that. Or maybe that was too early back then. But even like something like Forza, and like every time you have to like fix one problem, it's money out of the budget that could have been invested in something that has already seen success. That's why like the risks are just insane for these companies now, especially with interest rates being up. I know didn't the Fed cut interest rates ever so slightly recently?
You look at this and you're like, does this make you gun shy now? Does this disaster make you look at fair games a different way? And you're like, oh shit, do we have another one of these? Is fair games going to be more like Concord, or is it going to be more like Helldivers? And if
I would be like, if I was Sony right now, I'd be throwing every resource I've got at fucking Helldivers. Because the community there is like, they are dying for a more comprehensive live service. I watched a bunch of videos, and I get a bunch of shorts about the community with Helldive and stuff, and I know like they had like a balance pass recently, which improved the things a little bit, because one of the issues that game has had is the slow pace of updates to just basic things like weapons tuning, and like some of the nerfs to the guns like seem to have resonated really badly with the studio. But like you look at how slow the pace of updates there have been. But like I'm looking at like what the state of Warcraft right now, and Blizzard is like, in some cases, Blizzard's patching fixes into the game while people are in the middle of a dungeon. Like they're patching World of Warcraft's expansion like several times a week with hotfixes, because the team working on Warcraft is massive. It's huge. And if you like, that's the kind of competition for live service you're competing against these days. So if I was Sony, I would be like, you know what? We've got a big success story here that desperately needs more money. Fuck this game. There's just no saving it. Let's give, the Helldivers devs more. Let's acquire the Helldivers devs, give them a bag, and bring them in-house and bankroll them to make Helldivers our next big shooter IP. Because, that game doesn't have a campaign. The universe has a huge amount of potential. The game's fun as hell. It's tight. It's a brilliant game. But they're just a small team. They need more people, so...
What about this idea of toxic positivity? About the idea of, like, they weren't taking any feedback because they thought they knew better than anybody else.
I've seen it in my own company, man.
Yeah.
Back before we were acquired by Windows Central, like not Windows Central, before Mobile Nations was acquired by Future. We had a couple of brands in our company that were just they had this toxic positivity thing where it was just like, oh, we can do this, it's fine. We can do this, it's fine. And there would be no pushback from the team, even though like the higher ups were trying to, you know, make some of our sister sites do really dumb stuff to make a quick buck. And Windows Central was always rebellious. And when like our higher ups were like, you should do this, it'd make loads of money, and it'd be something dumb like you should cover these, I don't know, refrigerator deals or mattress deals, stuff that's just nothing to do with the audience that we cover. And we resisted doing all that stuff for years to stop, because we thought it was really bad for the audience. And lo and behold, over the years, those brands that were, addicted to positive toxicity, toxic positivity, and just sort of being yes men and stuff, those brands are now gone because Google one day saw all these random articles and deals about completely irrelevant topics hitting their site, and Google's like, oh, this site's for spam, like Google's robots. They're like, this site's for spam, and like downranked the sites out of to oblivion. It's kind of like if to use a YouTube example, like it'd be like if you stopped covering Xbox and you just started covering, I don't know, drama all day or something. There's a bunch of YouTube channels on the, that was sort of like used to be tech, or they used to be one subject or something else. And then over the years, they moved into drama or clickbait or outrage bait and stuff like that. And then the algorithm punishes them for it because the algorithm, like, people expect consistency. It's a kind of link to what Final Fantasy discussion from earlier about consistency as well. But I don't know. It's a roundabout way of saying, you've got a success story in Helldivers, and put all your eggs there. If you are going to invest in something, yeah, Irish Jones in chat just said exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it's, I don't know. It's tough, man. The industry's going through a weird period where it's like, I don't know. Did they all think the pandemic was going to last forever? Did they think we'd be working at home, stuck at home forever?
Yeah, they did.
Present.
Back to the Nintendo thing. I guess Nintendo finally did what everybody thought they might do, and they sued Pocket Pair and Palworld, which you pissed off a bunch of Nintendo fans with your tweet.
Hell yeah. Sorry, Dom.
I guess like Nintendo suing them for some patents they have in Japan, which even if they won in Japan, it wouldn't affect the game in US or something. I don't really know about the legal stuff, but there's some talk that maybe Nintendo owes the patents of throwing a ball at an animal and capturing it, which then Palworld would have infringed, which sounds fucking ridiculous if that's the actual case.
Great word. Fucking ridiculous. I like it.
But yeah, I know a lot of people think, this is just a huge company flexing its muscle on a small indie developer and bullying their way to victory, as sometimes Nintendo is wont to do. But how do you feel about this, Jez? How do you feel about Nintendo suing Palworld?
Fuck Nintendo. That's how I feel about it.
Whoa! He said it, not me. Holy
I said it, baby.
Shit.
Fuck Nintendo. Like, I think this is absolutely the just sort of the pinnacle of scummy behavior. Like, and this isn't about Nintendo. This isn't about console wars. Because you have to remember, I've seen some people saying, "Oh, you're only saying this because Palworld's an Xbox exclusive." Fuck all to do with that. Because it was Sony who are going to be building the franchise, or developing the franchise for TV. This is nothing about fanboyism or anything. It's the idea that you can patent a game design mechanic that has such a terrible precedence for all of gaming. So like, imagine if let's say, for example, Nintendo somehow wins this asinine legal lawsuit thing, right?
Okay.
And they probably will, because from what I've heard, they are abusing Japan's legal system here for for their own ends, and this kind of lawsuit would never fly in America or Europe or anywhere like that. But they know how to abuse the patent legal stuff there. I don't know. A game dev friend of mine was explaining it recently, and he actually said he said Nintendo is a law firm that also does game development. That's what he said to me. I just thought it was really funny. But the sort of the crux of the issue is that if Nintendo is allowed to patent something as simplistic as capturing a monster in a fucking ball, then you can imagine how cascading consequences of this. What's next? Is EA gonna patent, I don't know, playing football in a video game? Is Microsoft gonna patent, you know, driving a car around because they own Forza? It's this kind of issue where it becomes like a slippery slope, and then you start like realizing how much of a problem this could be if they're allowed to get away with it, you know? And it's by their own admission, they can't sue. And I keep getting these replies like, oh, they ripped off the designs. This PAL looks like Lucario from Pokemon. It's like, the lawsuit's not about that. It's not about any of that. And they know, they don't even have a leg to stand on this, because the designs are different enough that it wouldn't constitute a ripoff. And that's on Nintendo for making Pokemon look cheap and simplistic in the first place. You know, if you go back far enough and look at Dragon Quest designs, you know, and Akira Toriyama designs from like cartoons from the 80s, you can call all sorts of things into question about Pokemon ripping off other artists over the years. You know, they've been caught out for it before too. So like Nintendo doesn't want to go down that route of like, you know, being cross-examined for designs of their Pokemon, because they might end up having some, you know, skeletons come out of the closet, you know, when it comes to discovery. But this whole thing about Palworld and the game mechanic, having a game mechanic as simple as catching a monster in a ball, there is no universe that exists where any company should own a game mechanic like that. And, you know, the same is true about Warner Brothers owning the Nemesis system, for example. And or any of the game design patents that do exist out there. A lot of companies own these patents, but they don't try and enforce them, because it's like, oh shit, if we enforce this patent on this, we're gonna get burned on this other patent that Activision owned from the fucking 80s or something. You know, it's Nintendo's fired a shot and put itself in a position that I'm not sure it'll want to be in, because you got to remember, like, Nintendo's an old company, but so is Activision, so is EA, and so is Microsoft, and they have all sorts of patents covering all sorts of random bullshit, and none of them try and enforce it, because if they do, you could get a patent world war of game mechanics. And Nintendo's fired the first shot because they were so offended about a game that very temporarily blew up and looked a little bit like Pokemon, even though it played nothing like Pokemon at all. Nothing like it at all. A survival game, you know, a janky survival game at that, which offered some fleeting enjoyment. And, you know, I played Palworld for maybe, I don't know, 20 hours before getting bored, and then just thinking, I'm probably never going to come back to this, but I appreciate it for what it is and whatever. And Nintendo just come in here, like, swinging their dick around, being like, oh yeah, we're going to sue this tiny developer out of existence, but we're going to wait. We're going to wait until they've made some money so we can actually, you know, profit from this. I think it's just a dick move. It's a scummy move. And I think Nintendo is a garbage company, and they deserve to lose. And I hope to God they do lose. They probably won't, because I've heard that there's a lot of nuance when it comes to the way these things work in Japan, apparently. You know, a lot of backdoor, you know, decisions and stuff. Politics even. But I think it's just shit, frankly. And it sets a terrible precedent that I don't think, like, even the biggest Nintendo fanboys are like, oh, don't be mean to Pokemon. It made me feel happy when I was 12 years old. Even the biggest fanboys, they won't want to live in a world where publishers own the rights to these kind of mechanics. Nobody wants to live in that world. So yeah, I think it's shit. Fuck Nintendo.
Damn, bro. You know,
Yeah, I mean, what's next? It's going to be like the Black John says in chat, Temtem had capturing dudes in cards, digital cards. There's another game, what's it called now? Cassette Beasts, I think, which is where you catch the Pokemon in cassettes. Did these guys actually, you know, were they even aware of the patent? Was that something that they considered, or did they just want to make sure they were, covering all their bases or whatever? It's not like Palworld's Pokeballs look anything like the Pokemon Pokeballs. And it would be fairly simple of Palworld to just be like, you know what, we'll switch this up and we'll have, I don't know. I saw a hilarious concept on the Palworld subreddit, which was like Pal bullets, where you shoot the pals to capture them or something. And I was thinking that, yeah, that would really work for the game, because it's Pokemon with guns. But Nintendo are just so cringe, and it's not just about Palworld. They've done stuff like this before, like suing people who dare to have like a little Smash Brothers esports tournament in their hometown with like 20 people in. The fucking Nintendo lawyers will come in saying, "Oh, you can't do that. We own Smash Brothers. You're gonna owe us a $10 billion." And like, if like, some kid pirated one of their games or something, they'll come in and ruin the dude's life for it. I think like Nintendo is just a brutally insane company, and I hope they lose. And I think they're pathetic, and I think they suck. And fuck Nintendo.
Jesus,
Dude, I'm so mad.
Holy
I'm so mad.
shit.
Yeah, I'm mad. But how do you feel about it, Rand?
I mean, I kind of do feel that it's a big company bullying a small indie developer, and that they waited this long just to, because it would have been one thing to like do this while the game was getting ready to come out, because it's not like nobody knew about the game, or the game was like a secret, and it was like, oh, by the way, boom, it's a Pokemon clone. It was people had played it, demoed it, and it came out, and everybody was like, oh, it's like, but they waited like 9 months. Now maybe they waited because there's some talk that it's about to come to PlayStation. It was in some leaked Tokyo Game Show stuff, but it's made a ton of money, right? It made a ton of money on PC. Got a big bag from Xbox for being on Gamepass and stuff. So it sort of seems like Nintendo waited until it was most financially beneficial for them.
And they've also got Sony's backing to develop Palworld TV stuff, I think. So there's that too. Like maybe they think like if we can get a win here and prove that they stole something from us, maybe later on we can sue Sony when the cartoon comes out or whatever. I just think it's so shit, because it's like they would rather sue than compete. Pokemon Sword and Shield was so trash. It was like, if that game didn't have Pokemon nostalgia driving it, it would have been 5 out of 10 on Metacritic. All the the people that are giving that game like 9 out of 10, I'm sitting there thinking, what are these people smoking? They're playing a different fucking game to me, because this is laggy. It's hollow on gameplay mechanics. The graphics are bad. Everything about it is terrible. And they're giving it a 9 out of 10. What universe am I living in where this is a 9 out of 10 game? And I'm someone who, I did play a ton of Shield purely on the basis of nostalgia, because I used to have a lot of nostalgia for Pokemon.
You made me play Sword, I think.
I made you play it, yeah.
And it was one of the worst gaming experiences I've ever had in my life.
Well, dude, this is what I'm saying. Like, the game was so bad, it broke my nostalgia for Pokemon.
I think it's still like it's like 80 in Metacritic. What are the Metacritic ratings for the two Pokemon games, Sword and Shield?
I don't fucking know, but it's way too high. anything above a 55 is way too high for that game. Like I got the DLC for it as well. I was like, there's just nothing here. It's fucking terrible. It's so bad. So it just pisses me off, man, because these are games that have such a huge following and bring joy to millions of people, and Nintendo just puts in the bare minimum effort. And one of the things I often see fanboys say as well is like, oh, it's not Nintendo making these games,
it's Pokemon.
It's Game Freak. It's Game Freak.
Yeah,
it's a Pokemon company. It's like, bro, you're telling me Nintendo has no involvement in the development of these games? You're telling me they don't want to protect their investment? they are putting the bare minimum effort because they know that people will still buy it. And the one thing that could make them change tack is fucking competition, right? And rather than have a game compete with them, even vaguely, and I'm talking vague here because Palworld is hardly like Pokemon, rather than compete on the sort of the identity of what a game like this can be, they would rather sue. They would rather sue than make a better game for the fans. So I don't think Nintendo deserves any quarter on this. I think they're a scummy company. I think they're super lazy, and they do the bare minimum when it comes to investing in this stuff, and they don't deserve to win. But will they win? Probably, because it is what it is, you know.
Crazy. For a while there, I thought they weren't going to sue them, right?
They were waiting for the money to come in.
Yeah, I guess they were because I still remember a lot of journalists being like, "Oh, I can't wait for them." There was a lot of journalists that were really capping for Nintendo, that were very much like, "Wait till Nintendo sees this. They're gonna sue you to oblivion, Palworld." Like there were a lot of journalists that were very much in Nintendo's corner, being like, "You can't. How can you copy Pokemon like that? Nintendo, get them." There was quite a few journalists.
There
were like,
was.
Yeah,
and I bet privately even now they're flying their fanboy flag. But I think some of them, they know not to say anything because if it was a design thing, that could be different on it. But they know that the implication of a publisher owning a game design mechanic has far-reaching negative consequences that I think nobody wants to even imagine that we could even get to that kind of situation. So I think I just think the whole thing just really pisses me off because I know like if the shoe was on the other foot and it was Microsoft or if it was Sony swinging around like that, everyone would be lining up to attack them.
Well,
and most people
if it was Microsoft, shit.
Yeah, especially if it was Microsoft. But most people do realize how much of a negative thing this is for the industry. And it's not about Palworld being Xbox exclusive because it's coming to PlayStation and the game is. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony ends up acquiring it, but one day as part of their anime push. Microsoft's not going to acquire the Palworld company because they're based in Japan and evidently from Tango, Microsoft doesn't want to be too entrenched.
Did you even see the interview with that Krafton CEO where they're like, "Yeah, Tango's not going to make us any money, but we still bought him anyways."
Yeah.
Like Hi-Fi Rush 2 is not going to make us any money, but we bought him for the creativity and stuff.
Yeah. I did see that.
Well, it kind of put Microsoft in a different perspective. Like Krafton says, like outright known, like we're not going to make any money from this, and we know the games that they make aren't going to make us any money, but we believe in them and we want them to continue with their creativity and stuff. And it's just,
I love that. I really respect that Krafton did that because I think in the same interview they were talking about what went wrong with Callisto as well, and the gameplay wasn't nailed down enough. And I like that Krafton's giving them another chance because you never know. Maybe Hi-Fi Rush 2 gets the Gamepass bag, and it can become like have its own little fan base and stuff. Because I don't know, it's just nice that these games get made. It's nice that games like Palworld get made, but it'll be really hard to make these kind of games if one day a company comes out and just like, oh, actually, we've got a patent dating back to the 80s that says we own the ability to shoot a gun in a video game. What if id Software owns that patent from, making Wolfenstein or whatever from a million years ago? They might do. I don't fucking know. But that's just a universe we shouldn't be encouraging. And I think any fanboy that is supporting Nintendo here just really needs to think about what they're doing or really rethink their position. Take the blinkers off and put the nostalgia, to one side, your Pikachus and stuff. This is not about that. This is about how it could fuck up the whole industry. And Nintendo is opening a Pandora's box here for the sake of what? What are they going to get out of this? They're not going to get a ton of money out of it. It's some sort of weird ego thing. Like, oh, they made us look bad because people were comparing it to Pokemon and memeing it in the start of the year. It's fucking nuts, man. They could open Pandora's box here.
Mm.
I don't know, but we are potentially going to be on Xbox 2 next week. We are going to be potentially talking to someone who knows a lot more about the legal implications of all this stuff. So, stay tuned for that. And I am sort of working on my own piece, talking to some legal experts about how all this stuff could, shake down in the end. So,
Right.
there's the moralistic aspect of it, but there's also the legal aspect of it. So,
we have a couple super chats. We got Jonas today with the 2. Bro, we need Mech-Assault Remaster and Game Pass. Okay.
yeah, we've talked about Mech-Assault before, and speaking of legalese and the legal argument, I think Microsoft isn't sure if they fully own Microsoft. I think Microsoft's scared of getting in trouble if they directly develop games based on that IP, because they've just there's a new Mech Warrior game coming out soon called Mech Warrior 5 Clans, which is not a DLC. It's a standalone. It's like a 0.5 sequel, standalone. What do they call them? Expandalone.
Yeah.
So it's a separate game. It's a campaign-oriented Mech Warrior game. It looks really good, actually. That's developed by a third party, and obviously, but when you play the game, there's a little footnote there, which is like Microsoft owns a Mech Warrior franchise, which is really interesting that Microsoft doesn't use it because it is a pretty big franchise.
It is. We have Fantasticals with a 10. Have you guys seen the 50-minute Crimson Desert gameplay? No cuts and a little bit of yank, or probably means jank. When they showed the game for the first time, it looked like a scam, but now I'm cautiously excited. I did not see 50-minute Crimson Desert gameplay. Did you, Jez?
I played it.
Oh, you played Crimson Desert. How is it?
I played it last year at Gamescom behind closed doors. I can't really talk that much about it. I'm not sure if the NDA still applies. Probably does. But I think they pretty much. I felt the same way. I was like, when I first saw those initial gameplay trailers and stuff, I was like, this game doesn't look real. But then I played it and it was like, oh, it is real. Or did I play it, or was it hands-off presentation? I'm pretty sure I did play it. Or was it hands-off? I think it might have been hands-off. Like someone, yeah, I think someone was playing it while I watched it. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it was a good show. I'm pretty interested in that game.
RDX Linefet says, is the PlayStation 6 really coming in 2027 like the ponies are saying now? I thought maybe 2028 or 2030 because of the Pro.
I think it won't be 2030. It'll be worse sooner than that, I think.
Yeah, 2028. I mean, there was some of the stuff in the FTC documents that said Sony was aiming for 2028. And even, I think in that article about Intel losing out to PlayStation for the next system, I think they mentioned 2028, but it's around then. Could be 2027. Could be, I would say 2028. I mean, like a mid-gen refresh, if you're putting out like a midpoint, then in 2024, then the end would be 2028. Very similar to what they did in the PS4 Pro, right? Where 2013 they launched the PS4, 2016 they launched the PS4 Pro, and then 2020 was the new system. So it was even a longer like midpoint than that. So yeah, I mean, I would if I had to guess, I would say 2028 would be probably the year they would think about it. Maybe even 2029. I don't know. Dave Ramos says, Hi-Fi Rush would make more money if it sold music DLC. Like if it sold like actual like licensed music for the game from like artists or something.
Dude, I tend to agree that the game's future is probably licensed music. I think that's a good shout.
Yeah, could be. What about EA, Jez? Because they had like an investor thing. Did you see like the AI thing that they showed off?
Yes, I did see this. So,
what do you think about
that? It's funny. I think Tom Warren, if he's still here, he had a funny tweet about this. It was like, "Oh, last year EA said blockchain and it was going to be the future."
Yeah, and now AI is the future, the core. What did Andrew Ryan say? Like AI is at like the heart of what they do, or whatever the hell he said.
Yeah, something.
It's just like, oh geez, and then they did some voice demo thing where like players can can just say something and then like the AI makes it and they made some like cardboard maze or what have you or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
User generated content using AI. But I mean, that's what the investors want to hear, right? Before it was blockchain and Web3 and all the stuff that got them their juices flowing. Now it's AI. Oh, gotta have AI. Gotta have the the investors. They love AI, right?
Yeah, it's Bill Gates had an interview recently where it's like he could if he wanted to go and speak to investors and make $1 billion company about AI tomorrow. He was saying, which I don't know how true that is, but his point was that there's so much money for AI right now, and investors are so hyped about it that they will literally throw money at you if you even vaguely mention AI. So there is that kind of aspect to it, the amount of hype that it's driving right now. But I also read a report recently that like every time you flag Copilot to give you an answer, it uses a glass of water's amount of water in cooling the facilities and stuff. So like millions and millions of gallons of water in cooling every day. For what? Just so you can search things slightly more quickly. And also, Microsoft's just pulled a New York power plant back online just for its data center powering AI. So like, there's a decommissioned power plant. I think it was in New York. A decommissioned power plant that Microsoft just purchased. They bought a power plant for AI. That's how much ridiculous hype is going around right now. But yeah, I do. AI clearly has some role to play in gaming in the future. But I don't know if it's going to be this sort of redefining thing, partially because of how expensive it is. Like, if you're running a game that has AI features, you're increasing your costs a lot. And it's like, okay, well, you've got to sort of explain to me how this is going to give a return on investment. Because right now, adding an NPC that can just talk more naturally or whatever, the amount of extra money that costs you to deliver that, is that going to be worth it? Because it has to send a call to the AI to actually generate the content, So yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, so far AI seems to work best when it comes to programming, like sort bug fixing and solving issues with code. And I think like AI could be very lucrative there in speeding up QA and stuff like that. Maybe you could have AI bots which test the game. Apparently like OpenAI's latest model passed an IQ test to the tune of 120 IQ, which is way higher than the average gamer. And and maybe you could have AI bots that test games and just detect issues, and maybe that's how the future of QA works. But I think like as it comes for gameplay features, I don't know, man. It seems like a lot of hype. I would rather that these companies just shut up about it and just show us an actual product that is good. But then again, they have to deliver all this hype for their investors and shit. So I don't know. Right now, it's all just hype, and I don't even register it as anything more than hype and conjecture right now.
Mm.
Hey,
What about
maybe we'll be using it soon.
What about the new info about Battlefield? 4 studios working on it. They got some community thing happening next year. Like, I've always been a Battlefield guy, more so than a Call of Duty guy. Like, Battlefield was my multiplayer shooter. If I wasn't playing Halo, I was playing Battlefield. Like Battlefield 3, Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2, Battlefield 4. Those were the multiplayer experiences I want. And it's kind of sad to see what Battlefield sort of the turn it's taken a little bit.
Yeah. I feel completely the same. Like
they're doing modern again, obviously, because that's what people want. But Vincent Pella, is he gonna bring back Battlefield to the compete with? Because I remember at one point I thought maybe naively that like, oh, Battlefield's it'll be bigger than Call of Duty, and that never happened. But because I always felt like Battlefield's multiplayer was better than Call of Duty's.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. Battlefield 1 is probably my personal favorite Battlefield ever, I think, and probably one of my favorite shooters ever. I think Battlefield 1 is just a sublime game. Like with the huge blimps are exploding, and it's not like it's not like fakery. It's not like something happening off in the background. It's like, oh shit, I'm on a blimp that is now exploding, and then you have to dive off it and parachute and all the tricks you can pull off in those games. Like Battlefield 1 was such a fantastic, fantastic experience. But the most recent one, 42, trash. Absolute trash. And I've tried playing it multiple times. Like even after all the updates and pivoting and trying to give people what they think they want. Like the maps are just so weird, like bereft of cover. It's like the games were kind of designed for battle royale, and I think that was one of the rumors that the game was originally going to be a PUBG clone, and then they pivoted it away. And that's why the maps are very sort of vehicle and flat, vehicle oriented and kind of flat with not tons of cover. But I just could not gel with the game, and I couldn't never put my finger on why. I really tried really hard to get into that game multiple times, and I just couldn't. So if we are returning to a more traditional Battlefield, then I'm all for it. But at the same time, with EA, you just can't just be you can't with EA, you just can't be like, oh, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think any company has disappointed me as repetitively as EA has in terms of game development delivery. They ruined Dead Space, they ruined Mass Effect, they ruined Dragon Age. They,
I don't know. The new Dragon Age previews seem pretty good. People seem excited for
yeah,
it.
I'm tentatively optimistic for the new Dragon Age, but they ruined like so many great studios, franchises, shut them down, slash and burn. They, killed Battlefront, they killed Battlefield. So much disappointment. Titanfall, God. That's such a good thing with Titanfall, and they just threw it away.
Yeah, but we did get a trilogy of Star Wars games, which they did say that Respawn's working on the final game in the Star Wars Jedi series.
That is one of the only modern saving graces of EA. And then that's even without discussing like the predatory nature of FIFA Ultimate Team.
Yeah.
The literal pay to win, the manipulative algorithmic tactics they use to get you to buy into FIFA Ultimate Team. Like some of that stuff is so scummy what they do for FIFA Ultimate Team. So I'm just kind of like I can't just be like excited for Battlefield personally. I just have to be like fucking wait and see. It's EA. What can you do?
Yeah.
There's literally no point getting excited for it.
Another game had some previews come out. Flight Sim. Microsoft invited a bunch of journalists and influencers to the Grand Canyon to fly some planes, and then also
so
play
cool.
some Flight Sim. And man, the previews seem pretty positive about 2024, coming out November 19th.
It's more career oriented.
Yeah, I watched some of the Jeff Grubb did some. I watched his video. I watched a little bit of Paris's video. They even like Jeff was kind of like, oh, they don't want to say it's more gamey, but it definitely like is more gamey. Like there's more things to do in the career mode. Which, I mean, I played Flight Sim for maybe an hour. I like flew to my house and flew to some places in the world I want to see, and that was it because like I don't really care about flying. But like, man, like watching them fly like F-16s and time trial stuff, and I was like, that sort of seems cool. And if they have more stuff like that it was more of like career oriented stuff, that maybe it would hold my interest for longer. But it seems like they've heard the feedback from the community, and this is gonna be like a bigger game, and it's a better version of it. So, yeah, that's I don't know. It's sounding like that's they got a big W with Flight Sim whenever when it comes out later this year.
Yeah, dude, like simulation games are so damn big. Like I got an email about the new farming simulator recently, and it was like it was so funny because the announcement was something like, "We've just announced 2 new types of grain crops for Flight Simulator," and I'm sitting there thinking, like, in a vacuum, the idea of announcing new types of crops is kind of funny, right? But in reality, people are super hyped and
Dude,
stoked
people
about that.
love simulators. How many like truck simulators are there on Steam? Or
Oh,
there's so
there's a game
many.
on Game Pass. Yeah, there's a game on Game Pass that was blowing up recently. I think it's called Star Trucker. I think
Yes.
it's basically being a truck driver in space, and it's like people love it, you know. And there's all these like PC building simulator is really popular, and Power Wash Simulator, the hit of the unlikely hit of last year or the year before, I can't remember, but um, I thought it was really funny. There's a quest in the new World of Warcraft expansion, which is I think the quest name is something like Power Warcraft Simulator or something. It's like a pun about Power Wash Simulator, and you have to clean a temple with a power washer in World of Warcraft. It was like an homage to Power Wash Simulator, right? Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's nice that you know Flight Simulator sounds like it's going to be good. My colleague Samuel Talbot was there. He went over there to the Grand Canyon. The reason I didn't go, um, besides the fact that it's a bajillion miles away for me to get there, but I was originally going to go, but I was also invited to another preview event for another game, which I can't talk about yet, which clashed at the time. It clashed with the time frame, but now like that event got delayed, so I probably could have gone, but
Mm.
um, I don't know. I I'm gonna get into it, man. I'm gonna try and get into the new Flight Simulator, but there's too many fucking games, dude.
I mean, Flight Sim
I
doesn't
don't, I
come
don't have
out
time
to
for all these
until
games.
November 19th. Uh,
Yeah, Harvey, the new Warcraft season comes out in November.
eh.
The Warcraft 20th anniversary season, which is bringing back the tier 2 sets from Blackwing Lair. You really think I'm gonna be playing Flight Simulator when that drops? Hell no,
Uh,
bro.
Probably not, I suppose. What was
No,
the other
man.
thing here? Diablo's made $1 billion, supposedly.
Yep, supposedly, and 150 million from microtransactions alone.
So is it Diablo
Shows you why they
4
do it,
that's
right?
made $1 billion, or Diablo franchise has made $1 billion?
I don't know off the top of my head. I only saw that in passing.
Oh, let me bring up the article, because if that's like if they mean Diablo 4, I mean that would be pretty good. Let me see if I can find the article. Diablo $1 billion.
Mm.
Where is it? Where is it, Jez?
Just search for Diablo billion, and it probably come up.
Diablo billion. All right, let me search that. Diablo billion.
Oh my god, we got breaking news. That's sort of
Yeah,
related,
I
but
know. It
also not.
says Diablo 4 has made $1 billion. So that is,
That is a lot of money.
I mean, yeah, that's got to be successful then, right? Diablo 4 has got to be.
Dude, it's kind of funny. Like you think about like how much Microsoft paid for Activision, even though like how much they paid was just an astronomical, unimaginable amount of money. They're gonna make that money back like relatively quickly, I think, which is absurd, you know. And Diablo's only getting better all the time. It gets better every season. They make it better in every way and make it more addictive and make me want to spend more time in the game. And now it's on Nvidia, so I can't even escape it when I don't have my PC or my Xbox. So, oh man,
So what's the breaking
I love that
news?
game. So the breaking news, which is only it's only slightly related to what we're talking about, but it's kind of relevant given what we heard about the PlayStation 6, the report that they were talking to Intel. They were talking to Intel to make the chips for the next PlayStation, and they went with AMD because, of course, they were. I think they just spoke to Intel to do their due diligence, and then also sort of maybe bid AMD up or down rather, negotiate or whatever and stuff like that. Apparently, um, Qualcomm, of course, being the company that makes the Snapdragon chips, the ARM chips, which are in all the Copilot PCs. Apparently, they're going to put a bid in to buy Intel, which would be insane. Because Intel, obviously, massive problems at Intel right now, huge problem. But that would really change the chip landscape if they did do that. And also, another chip news: AMD said they're not going to try and compete with Nvidia on the high end anymore. You see that?
I don't know if you saw that. No.
Yeah, so AMD, they're not going to try and make high-end graphics processors anymore. They're just going to make, budget stuff, and also, the games consoles, I guess. Man, can you imagine how boned AMD's business would be if they lost Xbox and PlayStation? More specifically, PlayStation, I guess. They would be boned. Boned pretty hard.
Yeah, we got JD Gamer Super Chat with $5. He says, what are the chances Microsoft brings Auto SR to the Xbox Series X? Apparently it has enough tops in its ML block to run it, and Xbox is based on Windows.
Can you repeat that?
What are the chances Microsoft brings Auto SR to the Xbox Series X? Apparently it has enough tops, TOPS, in its ML block, which ML is machine learning, to run it, and Xbox is based on Windows.
Yeah, so TOPS is the machine learning equivalent of flopped, T-flops. So you're going to be hearing a lot about TOPS next gen, which is like, oh, how many TOPS does it have? For the machine learning AI shit, right? That's an interesting question. I don't know personally. Auto SR is pretty fresh right now. I think it's in preview, I want to say. And it's not being widely used. But clearly, this is like the auto SR stuff. I think isn't it built more like a bridge for AMD and Nvidia to access the metal or something? I don't know that much about it. I need to study it a bit more, but I suppose I can ask and try and find out for next week's show what the future of Auto SR looks like, because obviously it's a very hot topic right now. I'll look into it.
I would say probably close to 0%. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe that could do it theoretically, but there's probably also there's probably the mentality that we should make this a headline feature of the next console generation, maybe. So, I mean, if you've got like all the features in your current generation, then I don't know. And if you are going to introduce it, you probably want to introduce it in the way where it's going to look its best. I don't know, just my assumption, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So,
and I'll definitely ask.
Earlier today, I saw Windows Central put out an article. Microsoft and Xbox had made billions on Halo, but a huge 1.8 billion chunk of that hasn't even come from the games. Halo is one of the biggest gaming franchises in the world, but nearly $2 billion of its revenue isn't from gaming, right? So it gets a bunch of money from elsewhere.
Yeah.
But towards the end of the article, there's an interesting quote here from use
your words.
Well, I'm trying to. It the way it said it's just friend, but it's John Friend, who's Xbox's head of consumer products. John Friend.
John Friend.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of cool surname.
He says we have
John Friend.
He says, quote, we have these massive, fantastic franchises ranging from World of Warcraft celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, to Halo, Call of Duty, to StarCraft, and much more. We're building plans for the 25th anniversary of Halo and Xbox. We have a rich history, and we have such a rich heritage and history, and these communities have been active for so long, you have to celebrate that. So, I mean, earlier in the show, we talked about PlayStation's 30th anniversary and the 30th anniversary stuff they're selling. And I saw this earlier, and somebody brought it to my attention.
It's more than a tweet.
And it's in the article, and so it's like, hey, we're planning. We're building plans for the 25th anniversary of Xbox and Halo, because it's not just the 25th anniversary of Xbox is also the 25th anniversary of Halo because they came out at the same time, which would be what? 2027, right? So that'd be 3 years from now?
Yeah, back when you were in your 40s.
Yeah, so
Young man.
interesting to see what Xbox would do for their 25th anniversary of not only Xbox as a brand, but also Halo as a franchise, you know?
It's gonna be a tweet and an AI generated picture.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it'll be,
that'd be enough.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
it'll be a discount on all Halo games, even though they're on Game Pass. It'll be a tweet with an AI generated poster saying "Congrats, Halo," and then Master Chief will have 6 fingers.
Yeah. Silas, member for 11 months, says, "My daughter has a question for Jez. Does it bother you that Rand doesn't like good games like you do?"
We can't all be perfect.
Jez wouldn't know what a good game is unless I dropped it in his lap and slapped him across the face. He plays World of Warcraft, for Christ's sake.
I've got, on this character on WoW that I'm playing right now, it says I've got 201 days played. So what's that in real money? 201 times 24. That's 4,824 hours on this single character.
Jesus.
But that doesn't include all my other characters. So how dare you say such a addictive game could possibly be bad?
RDX on a Fett says, "So why hasn't machine learning in Series X been used? It has hardware-based machine learning. With PS5 Pro using it, why not Xbox?"
I honestly don't know. I mean, it could just be like the APIs are not developed enough. It's relatively new tech. It could be that, I don't know, maybe Microsoft isn't throwing enough budget at the platform team to consider that right now. Maybe they're using all their energy on next gen. It could be a ton of different reasons, but it's coming. You know, they're working on it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't even know if Sony's will be any good yet. Obviously, we've seen some shots of Final Fantasy, which, you know, is very impressive. But there was a lot of the frame generation and also resolution upscaling technology. Some of it has a lot of downsides right now. So like some games you wouldn't even turn it on. Even the more mature stuff like DLSS can make the game worse in some cases, I found at least. And also like the frame generation stuff that AMD has introduces a ton of input lag. So like I can't even use it for some games. Like games like I've been trying to play Black Myth Wukong on my handheld with frame generation, and it just makes the game too sluggish to control. You know, so I either have to deal with the FPS being unsmooth, or I have to deal with the input delay. But a lot of this tech is really fresh, it's really new, and it will get better. So,
all right. So you know what? Let's move over to the Patreon questions. So thank you guys for checking out the show. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to be able to submit your own question, you can do so at patreon.com/XB2. Links in the description. And we're going to run through these with the time left to us. We got Silas saying, "Happy fall. PlayStation smells blood in the water. Xbox is floundering, and they are going for the final blow. They turn to the OG achievement hunter, the man with the million, Randall Thor. PlayStation offers Rand life-changing money to play exclusively on PlayStation and promote trophy hunting. Enough money to set the extended Al Thor family up for life. Enough to buy Windows Central and let Jez rebrand it as a BC Blizzard Central. And even enough to pay for Jez's Azeroth-themed Reading. What say you, Rand? Would you abandon Xbox to set you up, to set you and your family financially for life?" Absolutely. What? What kind of question is that? Of course.
Yeah, I would drop Xbox in a second.
Absolutely.
So I would sell out in 5 seconds for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sony, call me. I will ditch Xbox in a second if you set my family up for life.
100%. Absolutely. Wouldn't even have to think about it. Be like, done and done.
Bye.
Achievement says, "What do you think if subscription services offered free tiers cheaper than the ad-based plan? And they market that they have exclusive ads only for their platform, and you are paying for premium ads. Do you think people will be stupid enough to pay for that?"
You know,
I mean, it's kind of a funny question, but
It's funny, but also I will say this, right? I kind of like my Instagram ads,
Okay.
and that's such a weird fucking thing to say. But some of the ads I get on Instagram are like, oh shit, that actually looks awesome. I'm gonna buy that. I buy quite a lot of t-shirts from Instagram, like that I just can't see anywhere else. I buy a lot of gifts from Instagram. Like it'll know what kind of gifts my friends and family want better than me in some cases. And I'm like, oh shit, that'd be a really great gift. So so while I don't think people would pay for premium ads, there's gotta be like there is probably a future where ads have a role to play in gaming. Like if you look at the growth of different industries right now, gaming is one that is shrinking. Gaming has shrunk year over year. You look at the Newzoo report, there's less money being spent on gaming. There's less money, there's less people playing games. Game time hours have gone down, and this is all a pandemic effect, I believe. But also like the perception that we come into the end of a console cycle as well, even though we're kind of not, there's a perception that we are. So I think like there are sort of mitigating factors there, but at the same time, there's a lot of industries seeing a huge amount of growth at the moment, and one of the industries that is seeing this huge growth spurt is ads. And I think like when you look at industries like Google, Meta, and Amazon, and they're having this sort of this massive upswell of ads, and then Xbox just doesn't have a play there, and Sony doesn't have a play there. They're probably looking at some of that stuff and thinking, "Shit, we're idiots. We need to be on this," you know. And I know like everyone hates ads, but like people don't even like the single ad you get on the dashboard.
Nope.
But I would not be surprised if some of the growth in a universe where there's less people playing games and they need to drive growth because your costs always go up. Ads is probably something they're going to explore next. And I'm not just talking about ads in, you know, subscription based ad based subscription services. I'm talking like putting the ads straight in the games, which, you know, some games have already done. You know, ad breaks in the fucking pause menu, which I know YouTube's doing at the moment. I don't know if you saw that, Rand.
I did hear
But
about that, yeah.
yeah, if you pause a video on YouTube now, you'll get ads.
Yeah, I don't need to worry about that because I got YouTube Premium, baby.
YouTube Premium, baby. So maybe there's a future where, like, if you don't have Game Pass, you get ads in your pause menu. Fucking, I'm gonna put. I feel bad for putting that cursed energy out there, but I do think there is something there. That ads is gonna be a thing, which ain't exactly what you asked, but you know, it was a kind of a humorous joke, jokey question that became something more serious. But yeah, thanks for the question.
We have Dave Ramos. He says, let's get straight to it. You can choose to keep only one. Star Wars or Godfather? Mayonnaise or Miracle Whip? Oh, the second one? Like, get rid of both. Like,
Oh shit! This question's super relevant to me right now.
okay.
Right. So, one of the big problems I've got in Germany is that I can't find mayonnaise.
All right.
The only mayonnaise that they sell here is the regular fat Hellman's mayonnaise, which is so calorific. There's like a 400 calories in like a spoonful of that stuff. So like what I tend to buy when I'm in England is light mayonnaise, which has like a third of the calories, right? And I actually like the taste of light mayonnaise. But the one thing I can get in Germany, which I've never had before, because I don't know if it's even available in England, is light Miracle Whip. So, so it's fortuitous and coincidental that you asked about Miracle Whip, because I had Miracle Whip for the first time in my life last week. It was literally last week. Light Miracle Whip and Twiglets, and it was delicious.
Mm.
I am a Miracle Whip believer now, and I absolutely adore Miracle Whip, and I will be purchasing more Miracle Whip as the future goes by. So the other
Okay,
question
so
was
Miracle Whip.
Star Wars.
You pick Miracle Whip. So Star
I
Wars
pick
or
Miracle Whip.
Godfather?
Star Wars, man. I mean, the modern Star Wars has been terrible, but the amount of joy that Star Wars has brought me overall, when you factor in the good movies, the games, the good TV shows,
Yeah.
brought me way more joy than Godfather, I have to say, even though
Yeah.
Godfather, you know,
I'd agree with
Godfather
you.
is obviously Godfather, yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars. Ford Brand says, "What's up, fellas? Happy Friday, and hope you all had a fantastic week. What Xbox franchise would you like to see turned into a TV show? Can't be Halo, and it can't be Gears. Thanks, fellas, and enjoy the weekend."
Well, we got the Halo TV show.
Well, he says it can't be Halo, and it can't be Gears.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and we're also getting a Gears show, so it's pointless to bring those up anyway.
How
But
about
I would think, I'm just gonna count Warcraft as a Xbox franchise now.
I'm
They own
surprised you
it,
say can't be a Fallout show or an Elder Scrolls or something. I'm gonna say how about a Hellblade show on HBO?
That could work.
Yeah.
I mean, the game's already basically a TV show, so.
I mean, it's sort of already kind of a movie anyways, in a way. So why not go all the way? If not that, maybe
like a prequel when Senna was young or something. Find out more about when she was, when she had a.
You know what else you could probably do?
Unfortunate accident. What's that?
Wolfenstein TV show.
Oh fuck. That'd be really good.
Yeah.
That'd be really fucking good. Wolfenstein TV show would be rad.
Yeah, it would.
Maybe like after when they're done with Indiana Jones, hopefully they get back to Wolfenstein. As well, I do love the look of the new Indiana Jones. I am desperate for a new Wolfenstein. Maybe they'll do it then.
All right, we got Subeg. He says, "Hey peeps, let's hear some predictions. What will the Xbox Series Portable be priced at? When is it coming out? And do you guys think Sony will remove their games from Steam if the Xbox Series Portable has Steam in it? Have a great day, Pookies."
I've seen this word a lot more recently. It's Pookie.
Pookie?
Pookie.
Okay.
Pookie, yeah. Are you a Pookie, Rand?
I don't think I'm a Pookie, no.
You guys in chat, are you Pookies?
Chat's full of Pookies.
Yeah, chat's my Pookie.
So Jez, what do you think?
My Pookie bear.
When is this Xbox Series Portable coming out? What's its price going to be? And will Sony block games from it?
I'm going to say 2027 for the handheld.
Really?
This is based on nothing. I'm just guessing.
Okay.
No. Sorry, 2026 for the handheld. I thought it was 2025 already for some reason. 2026 for the handheld, and I'm going to guess $499.
I'm going to guess 2026 for the handheld, and I'm going to guess $599.
Oh my god. And that's, remember, Rand, there could be a base model with 64 gigabytes of storage and an SD card slot.
I guess you could say maybe it could be $399. Well, how much is a Steam Deck?
I think the cheapest model Steam Deck's $399 with 64 gigabytes of slow ass storage. They compromise on the storage a lot to get the price down.
Maybe it would be that. Maybe we'll have two models. Maybe a $399 and a $599 model or something, where like one has less memory or less storage and the other one has a lot. Something like that, where you can where you would basically want people to buy the better one, where you would make your margins, but then like people new to the ecosystem might buy the cheaper one. I could see there being two versions of it and be like one cheaper and one more expensive.
Yeah, because don't forget, they also have the cloud angle. So their angle with the cheaper one could be play, retro games, 2D games on Gamepass. They could even have a whole section of Gamepass, which is like battery optimized games, which is like basically 2D games, Hollow Knight, stuff like that, right? Which don't take up a lot of storage. And then they could be like play the AAA games using cloud on this handheld. So maybe my $499 prediction is just way off base. I'm gonna say $399 for the base model.
$399 and $599.
Yeah, $399. I'm gonna say $399.
Yeah. What about, will Sony block their games from appearing on the console through Steam? Tell basically Valve to block it.
No. I'm gonna say no.
I'll say yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no, and the reason I say no is because I think while I do think you will be able to run Steam on these devices, I think it's gonna be a mission set it up, and that most people won't do it. I think it'd be sort of like a side loading thing where you have to like boot the console in Windows mode or something, and then you have to go through effort to set it up. And I think most casual people won't bother doing that. So I think Sony won't do it. And I think if they did do it, they'd just be cutting their nose off to spite their face. I think that'd be remarkably petty if they did that. But hey, it's so I would also not be surprised if they did do it. But I'm going to say no. I'm going to be optimistic.
Omen says, Happy Friday, Jez. So I'm in Berlin for a bit and was curious if you had any recommendations of things to do or eat in Germany, or Berlin specific if you have any. Also, as an aside, if any of you visit Germany and don't play Pentiment during your downtimes, you are truly missing out.
So I live in South Germany, and I've only been to Berlin like twice in my life, and both times were for the IFA event, the electronics fair. So I have no recommendations, sadly, but there are a couple of foods you should try. Hey, I don't know if this is more of a Bavarian thing, but if you can find a traditional German restaurant, Käsespätzle is basically German mac and cheese, and it is fantastic. It is usually served with roasted onions, and it's just heaven. Käsespätzle is just heaven. The other one is obviously German doner kebab, which is more of a Turkish thing, really, but it's Germans really like it, so those are fantastic too. Currywurst, which is basically sausages in curry sauce, also fantastic. Sauerbraten, fantastic. Germany has a lot of really good food. Also, just schnitzel, man. If you can find a good place with a good schnitzel, man, schnitzel's a shit, man. Das ist sehr lecker. Leckerer Schnitzel. Rand.
Sick and Tired says, Hi, you hairy bastards. If the console sales drop
hairy.
off even quicker for Xbox, do you think this will either make Microsoft go even harder with the multi-plat push, or will it make them reassess the impact it has had on console sales and make them pull back? And Jez, as a lover of British comedy, one of the most underrated series was called Perfect World, starring Paul Kaye. Have you seen it? If so, what do you think? And if not, look them up on YouTube.
Is that Paul Kaye said?
Paul Kaye, Kaye.
Oh no, I've never heard of that. Perfect World. I'll have to look it up. I don't know it. I'll definitely look it up though. What was the? Oh, will Xbox
the console sales drop off faster, even quicker for Xbox? Do you think they reassess their multi-plat push?
No, I don't think Xbox thinks the multi-plat push is having any impact on sales right now. A lot of people on Twitter are upset about it, but I think the vast majority of people don't give a shit. They just want to play FIFA, Call of Duty, and get the consoles that represent the best deals. I think price is going to be an interesting one next gen. I think a lot of people think like the manufacturers are done with subsidizing, but I don't think like maybe there's an opportunity where Microsoft, undercuts, but maybe that's optimistic. But I don't think Xbox is going to be done with hardware. You've got to think now that with games being live services now, the Xbox One and PS4 are still relevant. Like EA just released. If you wanted true evidence that last gen is still relevant, EA just released Jedi Survivor on Xbox One and PS4. After a year of it being next gen exclusive, because there's still so many people just happy to just be chilling there, playing Fortnite and FIFA and Minecraft and stuff. So I think what you might see is they manufacture less stock and they just try to meet demand of the hardcore fans who want to buy things outright and have better, not let stock just sit around in a warehouse somewhere. Just make sure they're building things to order. Probably healthier for the business if they do that. But I know for a fact that Xbox still sees Xbox and the Xbox Store as the core of its business. And it is still the core of its business. It's still the thing that drives the revenue. This is all the issues lately are related to growth. It's all about growth and trying to predict the future. And they predict that the console industry, and this isn't Xbox, the console industry is not going to grow. And that's for Sony and Microsoft. And finding new users is not going to come from selling consoles. It's going to come from mobile and PC. So it's all about growth. It's not about quitting console. It's about maintaining console while also making sure they stay ahead of the inflation curve by finding growth elsewhere. That's what this is all about. I know people don't want to believe it for whatever reason, because we've only experienced console industry in its sort of in its growth phase. But now we're experiencing the console industry in its saturation phase. And yeah, Sony could grow more by killing Xbox and taking all of Xbox's users away. But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Xbox users just went to PC instead. In that if they can afford to do so. So yeah, I really genuinely in my heart, and I'm someone with Windows Phone PTSD. I'm genuinely in my heart. You don't have to worry about Xbox hardware right now.
Good old Colin says, "Happy autumn weekend." Yeah, I mean it's like 90 degrees this weekend. It ain't autumn yet here, but I know what you mean.
What's 90 degrees in real?
It's pretty hot, bro.
Alexa, what's 90 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius?
What is it?
32?
32
in September?
Yep.
That's wild, man. But don't you guys get really cold winters as well?
Chicago gets really cold, yeah.
Alexa, what's the temperature?
He says, if you were asked to design a skin or a blade for the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5, what would you put on it?
Do you want to know what the temperature here is right now?
What is it?
It is 53 Fahrenheit.
That's nice. 53 would be nice. Design a skin or a blade for the Series X or PlayStation, what would I put on it? I don't know. I'm not very creative or artistic. Maybe like the man with the million? Nah. Maybe like an achievement icon or something? I don't know. Would you...
Blade.
Skin or a blade?
Man, there's so many like cool fan art custom designs for Xbox consoles and stuff. Makes you sad that they don't get made a lot of the time. I saw... Speaking of which, I saw... Oh man, I need to find this on Instagram, but I saw someone had made... You remember the Deadpool butt controller, right?
Mm-hmm.
I saw someone had made a Space Marine butt controller for some reason. Oh man. But I honestly don't know. Did you see the custom Space Marine Xbox that they're not selling, which they absolutely should have sold? Did you see that? It's another sweepstakes console. I hate that, man. I hate that they do these sweepstakes things that you just can't buy. But I honestly don't know. Maybe when Warcraft comes out, maybe when Warcraft comes out for Xbox, they could do a custom Warcraft Xbox. I'd do that, man.
Good. Last Horizon says, Rand, what Cyberpunk ending did you choose? I did all the endings in the game. I guess, like, if you say which one I chose first, well, I did, before I did any of the main endings to the game, I did play through Phantom Liberty. And my initial ending I chose was...
Spoil it.
Well, yeah, so I don't want to really spoil anything, but I did all the endings from Phantom Liberty first. And if I were to say, like, which one was my favorite, I don't want to say anything because there's spoilers for stuff, but those were the ones I did first. And one of those endings still sticks with me. Like, there's two of the endings, and then, like, one ending, which leads to the credits that it was just...
An ending?
Well, because there's, like, the ending, but you keep on playing, right? Where then there's the ending, which then cuts the credits. You know how, like, when you actually get an ending, the credits start to roll? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think the ending that you can get in Phantom Liberty was pretty impactful, especially if you have a good friendship with Johnny, because he'll call you by your real name at the end. Which is pretty... I don't know, man. Like, Cyberpunk's game of the year, dude. I don't care what anybody says.
So that's probably the one thing that AI could be good for, is when you have a custom character in one of these kind of games, the characters use AI to say your custom name, Because remember in Fallout 4, there was like a huge list of names that Cogsworth would say and call you by name. But like my name wasn't there because my name's a bit weird. And I don't know if Rand was there. Not that your real name's Rand.
No,
I often think of Randy Marsh sometimes when we talk about.
Okay.
Randy
Sierra One
Marsh.
Kevin, Patreon says, "Hey Rand and Jez, as always, appreciate you both. With the higher price of the PS5 Pro and thoughts, it is a harbinger of higher prices next gen. Do you feel higher console price could actually benefit Xbox? Here's my 4D chess reasoning. If people really do consider jumping to PC if the price is too high, Xbox users have a more reasonable transition with Game Pass. Xbox has already noted they won't get sufficient users from PlayStation to jump over to the Xbox console. But what about if PlayStation users jump to PC? Xbox could potentially get those PC users on PC Game Pass, since there is likely already an awareness of the service. Plus, the subscription could be tolerable if they are dumping their PSN subscription. Am I El Predicto or just off my rocker?" I mean, there's some element of truth to that, where maybe you'd have some PlayStation users subscribe to Game Pass. But the problem with the Microsoft Store on Windows is nobody fucking uses it. So I don't really see...
Don't be so sure about that.
Yeah, it's true. You know it's true. I don't care what anybody says.
Don't be so sure of that.
Whatever. Nobody uses it.
Even if the facts suggest otherwise.
What facts? I mean, hell, you got people on Twitter and even some of the industry that say nobody buys games on Xbox console. Okay. Period.
Nobody buys games.
I'm just saying, bro. You see
the
this?
PC Game Pass has a lot of users, actually. More than you'd probably think, actually.
Probably doesn't have more than I think.
Nah, I think it does.
I don't think it does.
I think it does.
I think it has exactly how many I think it has.
How many is that? 3?
Okay, how many copies of Space Marine 2 were sold on the Windows Store recently?
Well, it's not there.
Oh, okay, so 0. All right. How many copies of Hogwarts Legacy were sold on Windows Store?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, dude. It's about active users. And PC Game Pass is a better deal than console Game Pass right now.
How many people bought Frostpunk, are playing Frostpunk on the Windows Store, or bought Frostpunk 2 on Steam?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But I can tell you a lot of people are using the Riot benefits right now.
Sure. Anyways, let's go. Tiger Trey 11 says, "Hi Rand and Jez. With Xbox's TGS stream happening next week, how good do y'all expect the show to be in comparison to 2022 and 2023? Will Final Fantasy ports be the main draw, or can we hope for another announcement or similar level, like a port of Atrelia Rizzo Trilogy, for example?" Don't. Go ahead.
Don't know.
Well, no, I'm expecting. I don't even know what I'm expecting. So I don't.
Well, I'm actually quite excited for it. I'm not expecting like megaton kind of stuff there. I am expecting some Final Fantasy-ish, something Final Fantasy-ish there. Don't know what that looks like exactly, but I think Final Fantasy, you can expect that there in some form. I also think you can expect some Game Pass announcements. So like there might be some really compelling Game Pass stuff. Some of it's probably going to be things we already know about. You have to remember this is for an audience that isn't really that familiar with Xbox. Obviously, I think there'll be some Genshin Impact, for example, which is quite popular in Japan. Maybe they'll announce some other game like that there. But I don't think it's going to be mind-blowing. But I think like if you are a fan of Game Pass, Japanese games, and you've been waiting for things like Final Fantasy, etc., I think you'll have some reasons to be excited.
Okay.
Personally. But
Randy
don't
Dickens,
overhype it to yourself.
Randy Dickens II. Hey, well, Tom Warren says it's going to be worth watching, so.
Oh, Tom Warren confirms. So there you go. Tom Warren just confirmed.
That's what his tweet
Final
was.
Fantasy 7 confirmed for Game Pass.
I'm just saying that his tweet was it's going to be worth watching, so I guess stay up. Hey guys, stay up to 4:00 in the morning to watch the TGS stream because Tom says it's gonna be worth watching.
I'll probably be awake anyway. Probably.
Randy Dickens II says, "Why is Microsoft so confident that they will not lose existing users to PlayStation? People could keep their current Xbox to play what they own and make the jump to the PS6. Microsoft keeps shooting themselves in the foot with their lack of focus on their console gamers. I've never owned a PlayStation, but they have exclusives I would like to play, and PC gaming does not appeal at all to me. In a world where all Xbox games are on PlayStation, it seems like the best of both worlds, minus the controller. Xbox forever."
I mean, you aren't wrong. I think some people will do that, and they will just think, well, if the Xbox games are all on PlayStation, then I should move across. But that's not the reality we live in right now. Like, it was just a few games, you know. And will it ever be a scenario where it's like day and date? Will it ever be like, you know, will you ever like have that sort of co-announcement beat, or will Xbox still just be like, oh yeah, maybe it'll come to PlayStation someday? You know, do you want that kind of announcement if you play a lot? You want that kind of experience if you play a lot of those games? So you know, while I agree with the sentiment to some degree, I think a lot of it really is just the service game universe and the sentiment that most people just happy where they are and don't want to bother upgrading or moving to other platforms. I don't know, but I think you're completely right that Microsoft could be very, very
Well,
wrong.
they're also
they're
data-driven company, right?
They're a data-driven company, but they've had bad data before.
Of course. I mean, data will say whatever you want it to say. So I'm
Data
saying
drove
they'll have
on.
their own data and they'll have their own data statisticians to come up with an argument to say that people won't actually leave. I mean, we even saw like they had economics, you know, during the FTC trial, like they had people arguing about how nobody's going to leave PlayStation, and they used, you know, economics professors to talk about it or whatever. So Microsoft will use all the data that they have available, and they'll come to their own conclusions about stuff, and they'll think that you know, maybe having your digital games locked to Xbox will prevent people from switching or what have you. And maybe that will prevent a lot of people from switching, but I'm sure there will be individual people who, like every generation, like some will go to PC because they find that they want to build a PC and play the games how they want to play, and that's appealing to them. Some will be like, you know what, maybe PlayStation PS6 will be better for me, so I'll buy it there. I mean, people, they used to cross all the time. It was like Nintendo to Sega, maybe back to Nintendo, the PlayStation 2 to Xbox. You know, it wasn't really until this last generation when everything was digital and is going more digital that there's more of a stickiness. Before, people were willing to switch all the time.
Yeah, that's how the 360 rose to prominence, is because everyone was pissed off at Sony.
Yeah, so
but Xbox lost the wrong generation. And, you know, it goes back to the whole consistency discussion earlier. Xbox made a console that was really inconsistent, and nobody knew. They tried to, you know, tell people what they want. I think you said that last week, that some companies and Xbox sometimes tries to tell people what they want instead of offering it and then seeing what happens. They tried to tell people they wanted Kinect by making their console $100 more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
That was like such a huge tactical error. And you know, but they would have had data that it was like, oh well, look at the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch is super popular.
Well, and then look at their own data. Look how successful Kinect was on the 360.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And this is going to be the future, right? So
yeah.
Mike,
and like they literally came out with a fitness game, and that was like a direct, you know, inspiration from Wii Fit, which drove the Wii numbers. Sorry, go on.
We don't got a lot of time because I got to get going here.
Oh, sorry, bro.
We got Mike. He says, "Hey
Damn,
guys, thank
Rand's
you for
going on a hot date."
Well, no, I have a previous thing I got to do. Hey guys, thanks for your responses last week on my plea for help. My birthday was on the 18th, and I got a wonderful gift of learning that 343 pitched a Halo Wars game in space, commanding a fleet, and boy, am I upset I didn't get a greenlit. Also, on the PlayStation 30th anniversary, it'd be really cool if Xbox did anniversary consoles where the the use of the same outside box as old gens, but with new hardware. Well, maybe they will, because we did read that quote that they are planning some stuff for the 25th anniversary of Xbox and Halo. So, Parker Petrov says, given Microsoft's recent challenges in console sales and the overall stagnation of the gaming market, do you foresee the company acquiring Steam in the next decade or decade and a half? As a multi-platform publisher with a growing gaming portfolio, Microsoft could leverage Steam to expand its PC gaming presence and potentially gain a competitive edge. Considering their past acquisitions and regulatory compliance, how likely is such a move? I don't think it's likely at all. I don't think any of the regulators will allow Microsoft to buy Steam or Valve. I think that's like that's a pipe dream. So no, I don't see that happening.
Well, who would buy it then?
I'm not saying anyone would buy it. I'm saying I don't think Microsoft would be allowed to buy it. You think Microsoft, like, let's say they literally bought Valve and Steam. Do you think the regulators would allow Microsoft to buy the dominant PC gaming storefront when they have their own?
I think it depends on the current regulatory environment. And if you've got like a government in power that's like
but even
pro corporation, pro business,
but that's not the EU or the UK at that point. I don't know. I firmly believe that there'd be no way that would be allowed to happen. Zero.
Mm.
But I mean, who's to say that they even sell Steam? Maybe Valve just keeps it even if Gabe retires.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I'm sure Xbox and Microsoft would love it if they could buy Steam. But then a part of me thinks if they bought Steam, you know what would happen? Somebody would go just build another version of it somewhere, and all the users would just go over to that Steam, and they wouldn't want to deal with a Microsoft version of it. I don't know.
Well, they said that a lot of people said they quit GitHub when Microsoft bought it, but they didn't.
True.
So,
RDX Unifet says,
it's a lock-in, man.
Jez, what's going on with Certain Affinity's Halo project?
Dead.
You think it's dead?
Oh, we're talking about... Oh, okay. Well, Tatanka's most likely dead. I have no idea what else they're working on beyond that.
I mean, they were working on something Halo-related. Project Tatanka supposedly morphed into something else.
Yeah,
Are they still working on a Halo game? Maybe.
I have no sources really around that game, so I have no idea. The only reason I knew so much about Tatanka was because Microsoft leaked it themselves through their APIs. So, it's not they've closed a lot of those API security loopholes. So I haven't got a clue on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they are still working on something Halo related. I mean, you think maybe they'd be doing the campaign for the next Halo game and 343 would be doing the multiplayer? I don't know.
Well, the other way around.
Man, I still want to see what Halo would have been like in a battle royale, you know?
Meh.
I still can't believe they didn't actually do battle royale with Halo. Like, 'cause remember at the time how popular battle royale was in 2020. Still,
yeah,
and they didn't do it, and it was just like it's such a missed opportunity. Anyways, that's the show, guys. We appreciate everyone being here on this beautiful Friday. Make sure you do us a favor and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the Patreon if you want to, patreon.com/XB2. Thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring the show. You can always use code XB2 to get 20% off everything store-wide and free shipping. We should be doing something on Tuesday for Xbox 2+1, so be on the lookout for that. And we will be back next Friday to talk about, I would imagine all the TGS stuff would have happened. So we'll see the fallout of
26th, yeah.
The fallout 26th? Of the Tokyo Game Show and whatever happens there. So hopefully everybody, you have a great weekend. Let me know if you watch From or Slow Horses. Be very interested in that. Because I want more people to watch it. And
join our Discord.
I joined the Discord. Meet the wonderful people there, the great community. And until then, I hope you have a fantastic week. Enjoy whatever you're doing. Love you all, and we will see you next week. Later, guys. Keep it gaming.
Take care, everybody.